the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, in Disney.
Well, here we go again, another rockin' awesome Saturday night up here in New England. And I must tell you, we are going to be talking about something tonight that's going to create a big buzz. Well, Serena Williams got baptized last Saturday in Palm Beach, Florida at the Assembly Hall. Well, we're going to be talking about Serena. Plus, we also have the report in, the service report for 2022. It's not good. It doesn't look good. Stay with us. We'll be talking about that and other stories tonight. Well, there we have it. Oh, I am so happy tonight. I am just dancing around the house. I'm seeing so many people coming into the Six Screens tonight. It's very, very refreshing to see so many people leaving the Watchtower and saying, that's it, had enough, I'm out of here. And that's exactly what's going on. This organization is hemorrhaging. People are leaving like crazy. And that's a good thing, isn't it? Aren't you happy? Aren't you happy? This is one of the most evil, detestable, corrupt organizations on the planet, the Watchtower, and we are seeing it collapse. And it's not even in slow motion. It's collapsing fast, and it's collapsing by 1,000 cuts. I can't tell you exactly what's making this organization tank so much lately. It's a lot of things, and we'll be discussing some of those things tonight. Well, my name's Rick Ferrin, and I am coming to you from the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston. Friends, I have to tell you, the northeastern part of the United States is where many of these cults got going, and now the northeastern part of the United States is doing a job on these people. These cults are really beginning to get exposed by many, many people and institutions up here in New England. So kudos to New England. Kudos to the Northeast, as well as people all around the world exposing the Watchtower as well. But for some reason, this little area that I live in here in New England, and when I lived in Florida, a circuit overseer, he always said New England was a tough nut to crack for the witnesses. And I don't know why that was, but I'm beginning to think I know. I really, really am. What you have up here in New England is they have a lot of Catholicism. Catholics, and of course, they're not going to go for it. Plus, you have a lot of universities. You've got Harvard University, MIT. You've got all of these big colleges, Boston College, Massachusetts University. I mean, you've got tons of colleges. There's a lot of people up here that, you know, they know about the Watchtower. They're being educated about these high control groups. So exactly why the reason is Boston's the capital of apostasy, I don't know, but we're so glad that we're enjoying it. Well, I hope you have some apostates coming to your area, and you will. Don't you worry. If you don't have any right now, they're coming. As more and more people hemorrhage the Watchtower, there's going to be more and more people coming to your neck of the woods. Oh, I have to tell you, though, the Watchtower is putting their foot in their mouth. They are doing things that, no wonder why they had to come up with that saying twice last year. You may hear things that are illogical, and they don't sound logical from a human standpoint. Well, that is exactly what's going on. And people, even witnesses, are starting to scratch their head. And I don't know if you saw it, but our good friend Chewy, he sent me a clip, and I'm not going to play the clip, but I'm going to at least tell you what happened. There's a woman on YouTube. Her name is Bridget, and she's an ex-Jehovah's Witness. And, you know, what they've done is they're reducing hours. Did you hear this? We talked about it last week. But the organization, Watchtower organization, is reducing hours for pioneers, for publishers, and for just regular publishers, and for auxiliary pioneers as well. Now, you can pioneer right now if you want to be one and you're Jehovah's Witness. You can pioneer and only have to get 50 hours a month in. And if you do auxiliary pioneering, you only have to get 30 hours a month in. And if you're just a regular publisher, you really don't even have to report time. The service overseer, he's going to call you. Brother Farron, did you get any time in this month? Well, I was kind of busy. I didn't get to do too much. Well, Brother Farron, did you talk to anybody about the truth? Well, I did mention something about the truth. Okay, that's good. That's good for 10 hours. And they're just putting hours in there. They're cooking the books. They're fudging the numbers, massaging the numbers. So that's what's going on. But anyways, getting back to Chewy. So this woman, Bridget, on YouTube, she figured she would call an elder from her old congregation. I guess it wasn't from her old congregation. She called the Kingdom Hall nearby. And she wanted the elder to answer a question that she had about time reporting in the Watchtower. So she told the elder, in view of, Watchtower reducing the numbers and people don't have to put as many hours in anymore, wouldn't that be going against what witnesses were always taught? Witnesses are always taught that you got to put more time in. This is a vital work. This is a warning work. We're trying to save people from dying and put as much time in as you can. But now the Watchtower is telling people, hey, we relax the numbers. So she asked the elder, what's up with that? Why are you relaxing the numbers when really we're getting so close to the end? He said, well, and basically what he said is just what I told you about. Sometimes he said things don't seem logical. So he kind of admitted it's not logical to start reducing the hours, but at least he did agree with the woman calling in, Bridget, that even though it's not logical, it's coming down from the faithful and discreet slave, and we're going to obey it. And Chewy, when he called me about this today, he was so concerned. He says, Rick, that is scary. That is scary. And he has relatives and friends in the organization, like many of us do. And I'm finding the same thing. It's scary to me, too. Will these people do whatever the Watchtower tells them to do, even if it doesn't sound logical from a human standpoint? Well, this is, what's being repeated throughout the pages of the Watchtower, 2 articles last year, and I'm sure you'll hear more this year. So the announcements are going to be quite attention-grabbing in the organization. So they're going to make announcements. They've already probably made them this week. But what they're doing is they want to let everybody know when your circuit overseer comes and he visits you, wouldn't it be nice if you could all auxiliary pioneer? And we're even going to cut the hours back to pioneer during the memorial this year and during a circuit over visit. We'll let you become an auxiliary pioneer during the memorial and the circuit overseer's visit with only 15 hours required to be an auxiliary pioneer. Now, hold on one second. Let's just analyze this, because this is going to create such a guilt trip. It's going to make everyone in the Kingdom Hall feel guilty if they don't go out and become an auxiliary pioneer during the circuit overseer and during the memorial this year. So the entire congregation is going to be expected to do it. Oh, yes, the Watchtower isn't stupid here. At times I think they are, but I think this is a smart maneuver. They're going to get everyone to pioneer. They're going to get their pioneer hours, auxiliary pioneer hours of 15. Because let me just explain it to you. Up until now, 10 hours was always the national average. That's what the Watchtower wanted its publishers to get. As a matter of fact, if you were going to be a ministerial servant or an elder, you had to get 10 hours in a month or you couldn't qualify. So now what we got is the national average is 10. So I'm sure many people are saying, well, all I have to do is get 5 more hours when the circuit overseer is coming, and then I'll be able to be an auxiliary pioneer. So this is going to really rock many people who don't like service. They're going to be guilt-tripped into more service hours. So, I mean, I'll tell you what, I am glad Satan kicked me out of his organization, because who likes going out in service, knocking on doors, when you know the whole world now understands who Jehovah's Witnesses are? A dangerous, destructive, pedophile covering up organization. Would you feel happy going door to door with that type of a stigma on your back? I know one thing. When the Catholic Church right up here in Boston, when they ran into their problem, from the Boston Globe exposing child sexual perverts in the Catholic organization, there were many priests that would walk around Boston and a number of cities. They wouldn't wear their collar. They were embarrassed to do it.
Yes. It was an embarrassment.
It's embarrassment, absolutely, Pixie. It's big time embarrassment. Yes.
The thing that I know.
Pixie, hold on. Someone before you was in there. Go ahead, Susan.
I was just trying to mention that when I was a regular pioneer, it was 1,000 hours a year, or 83 hours a month. They preferred 90, and I feel angry. I mean, they're letting people get off saying they're a pioneer. I worked my tail off, and I hated field service, but I only did it because I thought I was worshiping Jehovah. Well, now that I know that every time they say Jehovah, it means the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, I was serving the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. But be that as it may, for 5 hours, for 10 hours, you can be a pioneer. I think that's, I don't know, it just kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Well, Susan, if you don't get the 15 hours during the memorial season or your circuit overseer visit, you're going to be looked down upon. You're going to be such a wicked, evil person by the congregation. So they're going to expect everyone to do this. Thank you very much. Pixie, what did you have to say, Pixie? Okay.
I watched it. I watched it twice. I really took notes on it. And what I noted was, like you say, it's sad that they've become so gullible and trusting. It isn't safe because the people in power are saying, well, even if what we tell you doesn't make sense to do it. But the third thing that I noticed was a use of the word requirements. So they've put themselves in a position like they're the law and they're the authority and they have requirements. Well, we know the only real requirements in life is death and taxes. So they've really got the people chained to this whole idea.
Oh, Pixie, well, thank you for bringing that up, because I kind of thought that too, but thank you for reverberating it, because it is a requirement. And who puts requirements on you? The government. That's who puts requirements. Yes. Go ahead, Susan.
True, Rick, is that I think the reason they're lowering our requirements and making no hour requirements is they need to count publishers. So if they, if going out in service is a way of counting publishers, it's not going to work. They're just going to go, down the tube. So they're doing this in order to keep who's ever on their rosters or books that haven't said that I want to be disfellowshipped, would be counted as a publisher for the congregation.
Well, there you go. There's no time. In fact, that came into play last year. I believe it was in the spring, where there is no time requirement for a publisher. As a matter of fact, like I said earlier, the service overseer will call you up. Sister Susan, did you get some time in? I didn't get too much time in. I was in the hospital. Well, you must have witnessed to somebody. Did you talk to a nurse? Did you talk to a doctor? Did you talk to the cleaning lady? Yeah, you must have talked to somebody, Susan. Well, I did. All right, we'll put you down for 5 or 6 hours. That's what they did. And when we go over the report for this year, for 2022, that's coming up here on JW World News tonight, you're going to see that's why some of their, the publishers kind of went up a little bit. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But isn't that something? So, I'll tell you what, you are going to be feeling like so guilty if you don't if you don't auxiliary pioneer when the circuit overseer comes and in memorial season. Everyone's going to be pioneering. Man, people are going to be, Jehovah's Witnesses are going to be knocking on doors all over the place. All right, any other thoughts on that at all? Any other thoughts on the pioneer hours being reduced? And even though it's not sensible, it's going against their teaching, because they've always taught that, we got to get more hours and you got to do more. This is a life-saving work. Get out there. People are dying. If we don't get out there and preach, we're going to be guilty. We're going to be responsible for people dying. You got to get out and do it. So there you go. But I'm coming across all kinds of news that just is so disturbing. And I came across this news story this week about a woman in Brazil. And this really rocked my cage, so to speak. There was a woman in Brazil. She was a Jehovah's Witness woman. And she's now seeking compensation from the hospital, which tried to save her husband's life without blood transfusion. So let me just kind of bring you up to speed, because I had to go over this story a few times. I'm saying, what a wicked woman. The Jehovah's Witness woman, is seeking compensation from the hospital, because they were trying to save the husband with a blood transfusion. Yeah, the hospital stepped in because the husband was dying, and a judge, he denied a request from the wife and from the man that died, and he denied a request of not letting them refuse a blood transfusion. He gave them the transfusion, and the man was living. He was coming back for a while. He was doing better. And then the woman came in and filed an injunction which stopped the hospital from giving him more blood transfusions. And the reason why he died is because of that. And the judge realized it. Because they stopped the transfusions, it took the man's life. So Judge Marcelo Paulo Salgado, thank you, Judge. And he dismissed this suit against the hospital, justifying that the doctors at the Felicio Rancho Hospital acted in the exercise of their professional duty. Yes, when a person becomes a doctor, their whole way of doing business, their whole oath of helping people is to keep them alive, right? So the hospital disclosed that the good of life, that is life itself, was placed as priority, and the transfusion had to take place to save this man's life. So that is really something. And then the article, what I always like about these extreme blood cases, and it's probably not that extreme, and it happens more than we think, but what I always like about these newspapers, we hear about Jehovah's Witnesses refusing a blood transfusion. I'm glad the newspaper brings up other facts, because the newspaper did go on to say that Jehovah's Witnesses are known for its fundamentalism. The Jehovah's Witnesses believe that the Bible prohibits blood transfusions. And then they give scriptures, Genesis 9:4, Leviticus 17:10, and of course, Acts 15:28-29. And the newspaper said, anyone who undergoes the procedure, anyone who has a transfusion, cannot enter paradise. Boy, what a predicament to be in, folks. Aren't you glad that you're out of the Watchtower, or at least trying to wiggle your way loose? They don't care one bit for you. You can die, and if you take that transfusion and you live, don't expect to live in paradise. You're a dead duck. So the woman was asking for compensation on the grounds that the transfusion took place without her husband's authorization. Thus, she was saying, violating his right to freedom of religion. Well, they weren't buying it. The judge wasn't buying it. And the judge said, nope, that's it. He dismissed the case. So this crazy woman is not going to get compensated. What a terrible, I'll tell you what, how bad can Jehovah's Witnesses be? I mean, really, going to the point, why didn't the Jehovah's Witness woman just say, forget it? He held his own. He didn't want the transfusion. They did it anyways. So be it. I'll see my husband in paradise, and drop the suit. No, the woman had to go forward with it. That is despicable. That is despicable. Well, we hear stories like that all the time. And, one of the biggest questions that I get asked here at the Six Screens Telenetwork, and doing it for going on 17 years, one of the biggest, I'll say one of the most asked questions that comes into our news center here is the thought of how many people have died for refusing blood transfusions. Friends, I don't have the answer to that. I've had various people come on the program. In fact, there's a man that has been on the program before, and he's a former Jehovah's Witness, and he wrote a book called Blood on the Altar. And this man lives right here in Massachusetts as well. And he, in the book, he estimates thousands and thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses have died for refusing blood. And I'm just going to go, look, don't take this to the bank and cash it. But I wouldn't be one bit surprised if we don't have upwards of 10,000 plus people that have died for refusing a blood transfusion. It wouldn't sound that exaggerated to me at all, and maybe even more, because sometimes we don't get the whole skinny. But if there was a 747 that crashed, say every year, you don't hear much of it, do you? But you do. They make a big story out of it, and they'll say, okay, the plane crashed and 275 people died. And then they'll make a big story out of it. But, Jehovah's Witnesses are dying probably on a daily basis, at least on a weekly basis. But because they're dying one by one, there's no big story about it. There's no big story about it. But you can be assured that many, many Jehovah's Witnesses are dying, and how sad that is. How sad that is. We've had plenty of people call into the Six Screens and tell us about relatives and friends they knew that died because of refusing a blood transfusion. Well, I want to thank you all for listening in tonight. You're on JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about, but we do it all the time. We talk about it all the time here, every Saturday night and every other Sunday, right here on the Six Screens Telenetwork. Well, they're starting to really get excited. That is the witnesses about their conventions coming up for 2023.
Hello.
Yes. You're on with us. Go ahead.
Hi, Rick. It's Annie from Montreal.
Yes, Annie.
Hi. I just wanted to make a comment about the blood transfusion issue.
Sure.
Yeah, you just mentioned. I guess there are no statistics per se. That's unfortunate, but I read somewhere that if you take over the years, all the number of people that died because of refusing a blood transfusion, the amount would probably surpass the number of people that died in Jonestown, which was a horrible event. But statistically speaking, at least I read that somewhere, the amount of people overall, like up until now, that have died from refusing a blood transfusion.
Right. Now, I forget how many died at Jonestown. Do you remember? Was it 912 or something like that? 1,200? I forget.
Yeah, around 900 or 1,000. I'm not sure, but something like that, which is terrible.
Yeah,
more people that died from not having a blood transfusion, including children even. So, yeah, I think that's unfortunate. I wish we could get a statistic on that somehow.
Well, just being here, Annie, and I appreciate your input here. I would even say there's so many more. I would say 8-10 times more, really, just based on my dealings here on this network that I deal with, and talking to so many witnesses, not only live on every Saturday night, but people who email me and stories I read and all of my research. There's so many. I mean, I have a number of friends I knew that died. That's just me. And you probably, Annie, know people that died too for refusing a blood transfusion. Do you?
I actually do my, well, it's a pretty crazy story, but my stepfather, who actually also was a pedophile, so that's another story, but he had a heart condition from a very young age, and he wanted to get a he wanted to get a no blood transfusion. In other words, a doctor that would do the operation without blood, which was what do you call this? Not a heart transplant, but oh, there's a word for it. I can't think of it right now. But it was a big operation that he needed. And anyway, it's tragic. What happened is he found a doctor here in Montreal at the Jewish General Hospital, and the doctor was actually willing to do the operation without blood. And but unfortunately, my stepfather never made it. He drove himself to the hospital and collapsed in the parking lot and died.
Wow.
So he never had it.
Wow.
Never had it. So that's pretty sad. And my mom, who was still a JW, although she was, well, she was in a long-term care facility for many years, and after she had broken her hip, and she was in the hospital, and at one point, but lucky, I say lucky, she didn't carry her no blood card with her. And so I think they gave her blood transfusion because she didn't have that card on her. And I'm really happy she didn't. And when I went to see her, she was in a panic, like, I don't want to die and things like that. They're talking about blood transfusion. And so I lied about it. I said, Mom, no, you didn't. They didn't give you a blood transfusion. You're okay. Although I'm pretty sure that they did. And I'm glad. And she survived at that point in time.
Oh yeah, they go right into full
crazy.
Full panic mode. Well, in fact, I'll tell you what, Annie, you hang in here with me for a second, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw out to the audience, and I'm going to tell you there's a lot more than we think. I'm going to throw out to the audience. If you out there know of anyone that died that was a witness, was a friend of yours or relative, go ahead, speak up now and tell us about it. Go ahead, you're on with us.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Hey, this is Jesse in Yuma,
Yes.
Arizona.
Yes, Jesse.
And I want to share with you something as an elder. And you were an elder for about the same time I served. And we've talked about it in the past. But I think, and maybe your audience can comment on it, I don't know if I'm correct or not, but me and my little brother Gilbert, we talk about it endlessly, about fanatic elders, the ones that will kill for Watchtower, the Nazi type elders. If they had children who died because of no blood transfusion, or if they disfellowshipped a young person who committed suicide, in other words, if they took their religion so far that it resulted in death, one of the things I've seen in my life, and I'm 54 now, I see that those elders can never leave the organization. It's almost like they sold their soul. They have to pay now. They can't join us in freedom. I don't know if other people have experienced that, but we've seen with elders, for example, that their children died because of leukemia and no blood transfusion. They become the most rabid soldiers for Watchtower. I've seen that with my own eyes. I've seen it where you even mention Jesus Christ and they become demonic. They almost jump and touch the ceiling. So I think that's another aspect of it. Some of the elders that have sacrificed blood for the Watchtower in the suicides, the disfellowshipping, or the blood transfusions, or the hospital liaison committees, it's hard for them to leave the organization. I wanted to throw that out there and see what your audience thinks about that.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me just ask you, what would be your explanation? I mean, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking out loud here. So do you think it's some type of they get some really good feeling, connection with the underworld, the demons, because they allow that to happen? Is that what you're saying, Jesse?
What I've seen with my eyes, our service overseer, he lived in a town in California about 50 miles down. And they had a young a daughter. She died. It was so horrible, the news, because of no blood transfusion. They could never live in their hometown no more. So they moved to San Diego, and then they came to Yuma. And in our town, it was in the Spanish community, so we didn't worship Watchtower. It was the English brothers, because we had no contact with brothers from Bethel. We were just a predominantly Christian congregation back then in the 70s and 80s. So I think that they introduce a form of anger because they've lost family. They've been to hell. They've been to hell on earth. The persecution, the newspapers, the television, and it becomes a scandal when a child dies with no blood transfusion, that these men have an anger for anybody who doesn't toe the Watchtower line, because they gave the ultimate sacrifice. They sacrificed their children. So if anybody's a little lax in the Watchtower rules, they will reign an ungodly. Now, why they do that, I don't know if it's anger, spite, bitterness, or retribution towards the sheep. It could be a combination of all that. So they take out their own anger because they've suffered.
I give. Yeah, go ahead, Michael. Yep.
Yeah, Jesse, I think they can't afford. Jesse, they can't afford to be wrong. If they're wrong, then all the things that people are saying about them is true. But they can't be wrong. They got to keep it going.
Jesse, in fact,
I'd like to.
go ahead.
Rick.
Hold. Yeah, we had a sister. We had a sister that was up there first. We gotta let her go first. Go ahead, sister.
Sorry, it's Annie again. I just want to make one last point. When I was with them, which is a long time ago, more than 30 years ago, when we women were about to have a baby, okay, we had to look for a doctor who would accept, who would be sympathetic to JW women with a blood transfusion issue. I got lucky. I got very lucky. I had a good doctor. But I think of the two cases here in Quebec. One young lady, 26 years old, died. This was a few years ago when she gave birth because she hemorrhaged. And I think of that, and I think how lucky we were, the ones that we just got lucky. That's all. And all I'm saying is that this, what's it called, committee there?
Liaison.
Hospital liaison committee. I think it's absolutely criminal, and I don't know how they even get away with it. So that's all I really wanted to say.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you for coming in. Go ahead. I think it was Michael.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to put there's another subject that's going to come into this mix here pretty soon, and it's about with all the information coming in about vaccinated people, how it's forming blood clots and everything. I think there's going to be a lot of people refuse blood because they don't want vaccinated blood in their system. And so I think this is going to come into play here.
Oh, so
information is starting to come out.
It's already happening. It's already happening. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
But now, Jesse, I want to go back to Jesse here because he brought up something that I'm getting it now, Jesse. It's starting to sink into my head. So what you're saying here is when an elder allows one of his children to die, he almost wears a badge of honor. It's almost like being decorated with a medal. And, what's the matter with you guys? My daughter died. So, I deserve Jehovah's favor. I think that's what you're trying to say, Jesse. I mean, that's pretty sick thinking, I think. But interesting nonetheless. Great. So I just want to. Yes.
Hi, Rick. It's Roland from England.
Yes, Roland.
Yeah, obviously I'm just listening, and as you know, I had issues with a blood transfusion with my wife. I've said many times on your show and on my own show, my wife needed a blood transfusion. She just had our third baby, and everything went terribly wrong, and her insides were terribly damaged, and without a blood transfusion, she would have definitely died that night. I had a 8-year-old and 6 and 8-year-old girls at home. We'd already got 2 daughters. I couldn't go back to them and say, Jehovah didn't want, the mummy to have a blood transfusion, so therefore she died. So I felt bad about that for years. But the thing was, while she was in hospital, talking about having a badge of honor, when she was in hospital and we wasn't sure, it was touch and go, we wasn't sure day by day whether she was going to make it or not, one of the elders come round to me and he said to me, and this was his very words, he said, Roland, he says, every person in the congregation right now would love to be in your place. I said, you what? And he says, because you've got a chance now to show your faith, you know, he says, because you're trusting on Jehovah. You know, at this point, he didn't know I'd given her a blood transfusion, you know, because I hadn't told him at that point. We actually found out later when an elder's wife went to the coroner's inquest because it was open to the public. And because she died in such unusual circumstances and it was a rare thing, the elder's wife went to the coroner's inquest and she found out, of course, that she'd had blood. Now, my wife wasn't a baptised Jehovah's Witness. She was only an unbaptised publisher at the time. She was going to be baptised after we'd had a son and everything. So a few months after, she'd planned to get baptised. Fortunately, she never did. And the only reason they didn't disfellowship me, because she was unconscious at the time, and I had to make the decision, blood or no blood. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision. And an elder, when they found out, the elders came to me and they said, we won't disfellowship you, we won't take any further action this time. He said, but Jehovah will, probably will. You'll probably not get a resurrection. And from there, well, I'd already assumed when I made the decision I wasn't getting a resurrection. But then they told me just basically what I feared. I still carried on going to the witnesses. I still carried on going to the Kingdom Hall because I wanted to bring my children up to do, you know, to have a relationship with God, and hopefully they would do a better job than I had done, is what I felt at the time. Obviously now, I'm so pleased now that I did give her the blood transfusion, because if I'd have let her die that night, that day, then now I'd be feeling guilty again, you know. So anyway, I just wanted to say that, Rick. So.
Well, Roland, you did the right thing. I was thinking the exact same thing you just said there. No, you would have felt so bad. Thank you for dialing in, Roland. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can answer Jesse's question because I'm his brother.
Yeah.
I'm the Jehovah's Witness elder he was lucky to have when he was going up to the Kingdom Hall. But anyways, this is Gilbert. What happens when you talk about how these people have blood guilty, they're blood guilty. Jesus answered these questions, and it's very simple to understand. You know, Jesus had to intervene with the Apostle Paul. See, the Apostle Paul was so hateful. He was so filled with blood. His hands were filled with blood. And he was such an angry and hateful person. And fear, anger will lead you to destruction. So nobody could help the Apostle Paul. Nobody can help a man or a woman who has filled their heart with hate and anger. You can't. You literally need divine intervention. This is why a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses don't learn the truth about the truth, is because when we're Jehovah's Witnesses, Jesus says, shine your light. In our brain, instead of having the electrical light signals in our brain shine, we shined darkness. We hated our country. We hated Christmas. We hated the Glee Club. We hated everything known to man. We hated parades. So we filled our heart with hate. So when you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness and you start saying, hey, you know what? I like parades. I like Christmas. And you start liking and you start loving things, then the light turns on in your brain. So that's why Jesus used that famous word when he said, he goes, I praise you, Father, because you have hidden these things from the intellectuals and you revealed them to the babes. So why is it that smart people can't see the obvious? Because they filled their heart with hate, and they hate you, the lowly person. You see, the governing body hates you, Rick, because you're the lowly person. They hate you. But you pray for the governing body as individuals. You pray for your enemies. And that's why they can't see it, because they fill their heart with hate and anger. And so if you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness and you're listening to this, you need to eliminate hate and anger, because it's a cancer and it will destroy you. And that's why these Jehovah's Witness elders can't leave, because they fill their heart with hate and anger and they can't see it. And only divine intervention, like the Apostle Paul, only through divine intervention can they be healed. I'm sorry.
The thing that I see, the dynamic of them saying to themselves unconsciously, I'm not okay, you're not okay. And the personality is, I'm okay, you're okay. But there is a personality type that says, I'm not okay, and you're not okay. And you want to avoid dynamic at all costs. I want to express sympathy to Roland on the loss of his wife and child in that situation. And there's something I've thought about this all week. There's something called dispensing salvation, and the governing body thinks they can dispense salvation for another human, and they just can't.
Can I just say something about the point that was raised about people who cannot have blood transfusion and had loved ones who died? Once you do that, this is the ultimate sacrifice that you make. You cannot afford to have any more doubts. You can't go back anymore. This is the ultimate sacrifice. And these people may be torn in some ways, but once they make the decision that their loved one must die and not get the transfusion, they have to double down on their faith. That means that they can't go back. Their doubt has to be suppressed, so they become fanatics, a lot of them. And that's, I think, what happened in a behavioral health point of view with people who have their loved ones who died through blood transfusion. They have to double down, and they become very intolerable because they cannot afford to entertain your doubts.
Well, that makes sense.
Thank you so much for saying that. I'm just thinking that they cannot allow themselves, they will fight against any hint at waking up.
That's
because
correct.
To wake up, we thank you so much for what you said, because to wake up would make force them to face the horror that they literally sacrificed their loved one on the altar of evil organization. And that is why they do what you just said. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, sister, that was a good comment. Yeah, go ahead. You're on with us, sister. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Rick. It's Constance. I was going to say, what's really interesting about this is that, you also have the ego and the pride that comes into the dynamics of all this with the elders. There's some elders who are like Nazi JWs. Well, it's like a lot of the friends have said here on the show, when you sacrifice your child, that's the ultimate sacrifice. There is no turning back. There is no way that you can resurrect your child back. So you're all in. And the male ego and the pride comes in, into this whole picture. And then it's also, when you add to this, it's just, it's a very delusional mental health way of looking at things. They're very delusional. I mean, in other words, they have to be right. Like, well, I gave up my child for Jehovah. He's going to be resurrected in the new system. So I'm so self-righteous. Jehovah's going to bless me for all that. Well, it's all delusional, because you've got the male ego and the pride mixed in, like with what Gilbert and his brother said. So, it's a storm. It's a real crazy, storm in the whole situation. So those elders are pretty damn pissed off with, they lost their child. So they have to be right no matter what. And they're not going to wake up because there is no way to bring their child back. So that's what's interesting with this whole dynamic.
Hello, Rick.
Yeah, go ahead, Kurt. Yep.
Yeah, on the blood transfusions, I think it's possible that the Watchtower may change the teaching on blood transfusions as time goes on, for a couple of reasons. It's only a guess on my part, but I think from the governing body down, I cannot imagine in their heart that they believe this is the correct teaching. It got started, it snowballed. Another thing, the second reason, would be legally, if it's possible for the legal department that could advise the governing body that they could not be sued over people that's died from lack of blood. The argument would have to be that they've got new light. They interpreted the Bible incorrectly and they're sorry about it. So in court, if that would hold up, where they would not be sued, I'm thinking it's possible. The organization is been bleeding for that doctrine, lost a lot of members, and even the 1914 doctrine may be at risk as well. So anyway, it's just my thoughts. It would not be a complete surprise if they abandon or make further adjustments on the blood transfusion doctrine. But thanks for taking my call.
Well, I hope you're right, Kurt. I hope you're right. That is a terrible thing. In fact, there's people dying in the meantime while they're waiting to change it. So hopefully they'll do it. All right.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello?
Let's go to sister first. Go
Hi.
ahead. Yeah, hi.
I just wanted to bring out that I found Philip Brumley's keynote address at the Robert H. Jackson Center. This was when he was speaking about the Barnett case and how Jehovah's Witnesses won their freedom of neutrality. Well, in this keynote address, he said that Jehovah's Witnesses were canaries in the coal mine. If anybody knows what a canary in the coal mine is, I'm sure many people do, but I'll just, for anybody who might not. When the miners went down to work, they put a canary, I don't know how many they would take, but at least a canary down. And a canary could detect if the oxygen level got low. And, you know, that was an indicator to get up out of the pit, get onto ground level. Well, I would encourage everybody to go to the Barnett case and search Philip Brumley. Now he is the Watchtower representative advocate for Jehovah's Witnesses, and he's also in this position in the European Union, fighting for the freedom of Jehovah's Witnesses to preach and, you know, to refuse blood. And this all fits in. Just bear with me. So as canaries in the coal mine, if this is what he's saying, and it makes perfect sense, because look at how many people had to escape from this organization that they just couldn't tolerate, couldn't accept, actually. It went against their moral ethics, you know, when they grew up and decided that they just had to leave and suffered the reprisals even that went along with leaving this organization. Reprisals of losing their family, of course, and social network, and perhaps even family members to suicide, and feeling those, you know, ideations of suicide as well. But so, yes, in fact, Jehovah's Witnesses were guinea pigs, absolutely 100% guinea pigs, and canaries in the coal mine, like he expressed. And he speaks just as confidently as he's a lawyer. He's a worldly man. He even of course he has to defend Jehovah's Witnesses human rights. So he's, of course, in the European Union, and he's very versed in what human rights are. And if anybody, including him, knows what human rights are, he knows that Jehovah's Witnesses children and vulnerables, like women also, and unbaptized men, and you know, others, just, you know, in on by the shirt tail are not protected. They're not protected. If they're baptized even and don't have a position in that organization, they're not protected. If you look into the United Nations and
okay, so we're kind of getting off the point here. So could you kind of make the point? Bring it back in.
Human rights, right?
Yeah.
Every article of the United Nations Declaration has been violated against Jehovah's Witnesses children. Almost every one. There's a declaration on the rights of the child, and there's a declaration on human rights. And Philip Brumley knows this. He's an advocate for Jehovah's Witnesses. He works for Watchtower. He is the guy. So he's saying that Jehovah's Witnesses are canaries in the coal mine. We're guinea pigs. That is the point. Okay, so if we're guinea pigs, and I'm from Canada, so the province that I'm in, we can donate our organs even. We can donate our organs if we're in an accident or something like that.
Yeah, and sister, I'm sad to say it, but I think at this point, can you get right to the point because we have a lot of people who want to dial in. So we're getting okay. Well, fine. Let's just call it. So this Bromley guy, I know who you're talking about. Sis. But thank you for calling in. But
why are you cutting me off?
I'm not.
I haven't finished my sentence.
Well, if you could finish, well, listen. I mean, you go ahead.
You're cutting me off. You keep talking over me.
Hey, listen. I'll mute you right out of here. I'm running the program. You're just a caller.
I realize.
Okay. Why don't you hang up? All right. Enough is enough. It's my program. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Rick, I mean,
thank you for taking my call. And the blood doctrine shouldn't be in a religion.
Well, no, it shouldn't. We all know that. I mean, we all know that. We don't need, why would we need to go on for 15 minutes about it? We all know it, right?
Mm-hmm. So we're canaries in the coal mine.
All right. Well,
the Jehovah's Witnesses that weren't able to stay alive and did actually commit suicide.
Yeah, well, we feel bad for them. I mean, I know you feel bad, and I do too. I'm not trying to be rude to you, but we have, a lot of people want to call in. I mean, if you want your own program in here, write me, and we'll probably give you a spot. Would you like to do that?
I appreciate your time.
Okay.
I'll talk to you about it later.
Rick would do that.
Go ahead. Come in. Yeah.
Yeah, Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rick. That's comment about the blood doctrine. They'll never change it because they'd have a lot of lawsuits on them, and that's all I got to say on that. I mean, they'll never change it. So that's all I got to say. All
right, no, they're never going to change, and I agree with the sister too. I mean, she goes with the scenario of the canary in the coal mine, and if they think that they are that canary, well, they better get flapping their wings and fly out of there soon because that coal mine's going to cave in on them. All right.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah. So who else wants to speak up? You're on JW World News.
Hello, Mr.
Yes, go ahead, Ken.
Okay, I got a couple statistics for you, not very many, but okay, in the Upper Peninsula here, of all the years I've lived here, of course, I didn't live here. I was down the Lower Peninsula for 30, 40 years. I've only heard of 2 cases in the Watchtower Society. One of them was in the eastern end of the Upper Peninsula. The courts ordered a blood transfusion and saved the life of a JW baby and so forth. And another case, they were thinking about this child was in bad shape when it was born. They were contemplating raising the issue of a blood transfusion, but the child died before they could do anything, period. So I don't hear too much of that around here. As a matter of fact, I heard of a couple cases. This does not have anything to do with the Watchtower. They weren't JWs, of people that got blood transfusions when they shouldn't have, and it cost them their lives. So that's a story for another time. I want to get into also, like I made this comment before and others have too now, nowhere in Christianity's doctrine are you going to find any kind of prohibitions of blood transfusions. The blood transfusions did not exist back in the time when Christianity was founded, or even when Judaism was founded. The Watchtower Society often goes to the Jewish Torah and takes scriptures out of there, and I'd like to know by whose authority, why does that apply to the Watchtower Society? I don't think they'll be able to answer that. If they take and they make a doctrine out of it, and it's kind of hard to believe that they can get away with it, because if you and I was to do research on our own and everything like that and talk in opposition of a blood transfusion or something, somebody would come along and tell us, well, you're not an expert and everything like that. That's a question for the experts. So the Watchtower Society, I mean, they're not medical experts, so by whose authority and how can they get away with ordering people not to have a medical treatment?
Well, Ken, it's very simple. Now, I know, Ken, you never were one of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
And it's very, very difficult for you and others that never were witnesses to get it. They don't question the Watchtower. You're an analytical, straightforward man that wants answers to questions. But first of all, the witnesses don't question the Watchtower. Well, they might ask questions, but they don't question their answers. The Watchtower says it, they do it. But you're absolutely right. Any normal-minded person would research it. But they don't do it, Ken. They just believe everything the Watchtower dishes out to them. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's going to change one of these days, and people is going to start asking questions.
Well,
what, where, whens, and why.
Well, they're starting to do it, but that's
the way to overcome the stuff.
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem. The witnesses are not asking questions, but many more leaving right now. They're hemorrhaging. So that's a good thing. Thank you, Ken, for coming in. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll keep listening.
All right, thank you. So there you are. You're on JW World News. If you have any other thoughts on blood, you have any other thoughts on the Watchtower's evil position they take on refusing a blood transfusion? If not, we'll move on. But anyways, let's talk about what's coming up. They had the midweek meetings this week. And of course, what they're discussing now is the conventions that are coming up for 2023. They're going to be meeting in person. They're not going to be on Zoom. They're going to have conventions in person. And I have to tell you, conventions are big money makers for the organization. And I have to tell you, the real purpose of conventions is to rake in the cash, very much like a rock concert, right, boy? They really bring the cash in. And so this is what they want to do. They want to go back. They need the money. They want to cash in on these regional conventions, and they're going to they're going to be coercing. All right. Well, somebody's coming on here. I'm gonna. We're getting. You can't have YouTube on if you now. Remember, can I just ask you folks to help me out here tonight? Could you help me out? Your telephone is a microphone. If you leave that mic on, we're going to be picking up all kinds of noises. And I'm trying to do a newscast. Would you like to have that happen? I know it can happen by mistake. But remember, your telephone is a microphone. So when you come on, you hit *6, and when you leave, you hit *6 again. That mutes you. If you could do that, oh man, I'm telling you, that my job would be so easy. I'm not complaining. I'm just explaining. Please help me out with that. So now we got the conventions. They're going to be starting up the regional conventions. And of course, they're going to be coercing people to give donations. And, many of these areas, many of these cities that the witnesses would meet in the past, I know that they were being subsidized. The state governments were subsidizing them to come in. They would actually pay for a portion of the arena that they would rent. And I'm still sure they're doing that. Hold on one second. And I'm still sure that they're subsidizing some of these conventions. And it gives the witnesses money to work with. Hey, we'll help you out here a little bit. We'll cut the rate back so you guys can come in because you bring so many people in, and they spend money with the restaurants and the hotels. So, yes, go ahead, Carrie.
Rick, this is gonna.
Well, hold on. Is this guy?
Yes.
Guy, you just interrupted me. Do you know that?
I'm sorry.
Do you know that you just interrupted me? Now this is getting. I'm gonna ask you. You're gonna have one thought here, but that's gonna be all you're getting for tonight. Because I wanted to tell you this. I've been getting a lot of complaints. So I'm just gonna let it go with that. So what did you want to say? And this will be your last comment of the night. Okay.
Now is a good time to start setting up protests at conventions to go for the ones not owned by Watchtower. Go for the ones that are public arenas. Protests at conventions, you'll get success. Protests at assemblies not owned by Watchtower, you get success.
Yeah. So make it more clear. What are you basically trying to say, Guy?
If we set up a protest near the convention arena, if we can try to wake up the Jehovah's Witnesses going in and out of the building, hopefully someone will try and call in your program or so. That'll help wake up the other Jehovah's Witnesses still indoctrinated. The protesting thing, I agree with you, is on that. Start with the assemblies and conventions. Now is a good time to do so. Now it's a good time to start protesting at assemblies and conventions.
Well, how about you, Guy? In other words, are you going to do it?
I wish I could, but there's a risk of getting arrested and stuff.
Well, so you're asking other people to take that risk, but you don't want to do it. First of all, you're not going to get arrested. Get that out of your head. I've done plenty of protests. The police have always been on my side. No one's ever been arrested that I know of protesting in a convention. So, if you want people to protest you got to set the lead. You got to be a leader. You can't just say to people, go out and do it, and you can't do it. You got to do it.
Yeah, that's what I tried to talk to the people taking care of me about that.
Well, tell them you need time off.
Look in the YouTube channels on the Australian protest 2019 at a regional convention.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I'm very familiar with it. I didn't go there, but they called in. We talked to the people. I've been to a number of protests. I like it. I love protesting. But it's just very difficult. I'm not complaining about it. I think it's a great thing, but it's very hard to get people to do it. Maybe now they might. Maybe now they might. But boy, I tried for 15 years, and boy, it's been so hard to get the troops mustered up. And they all want to come, but they chicken out at the last minute. They call me up and say, Rick, I can't come. My cat's sick. Or he can't come because my grandmother needs me to come and take care of her meals or something like that. I mean, all kinds of excuses. So the thing is, it's, if we're going to protest, let's put your mouth where your heart is. Really, let's get into it. I mean, I would be glad to have a big
Rick, let me butt in.
Yeah.
The worst case scenario, the cops are going to tell you to leave. They're not going to arrest you for that. That ain't going to happen. They'll just say leave. So that's what I got to say, and everything you're saying is the truth. So.
All right. Well, that's good. But I'm not trying to beat up on you, Guy. But I'm just telling you that you gotta, if you talk to the people where you're staying, and tell them that you're gonna have to get some time off. And I know you've been working along with others too to make this happen, but take the lead. If you take the lead, and then people will follow you. You're going to be a leader. We're going to make you a leader, Guy. Okay? We're going to make you a leader. All right. Well, yes. Go ahead, Dick.
Hi, Rick.
Yes.
This is Carrie.
Yes, Carrie.
Listen, apparently, Guy hasn't been around very much. These protestings have been going on for years, back in the early 70s and even before that. So, at these conventions. So, I think Guy's a little bit behind. And the people that are protesting still at these conventions, I think Australia had one that you had on the show.
videotaping. I just think that Guy is a little behind on the news. Means well, but
Well, no, he does. Guy means well, and I don't mean to pick on him, but I just want him to come up to speed, and he wants to be an activist, and to be an activist, you have to be a leader. You can't be a follower. You got to be a leader. Yes.
Right. Okay, that's it.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Carrie. All right. So anyway, so there you go. Appreciate it. So anyways, the in-person conventions are going to happen this year, and it was announced during the midweek meeting this week. And I know the Watchtower is scared to death that they're going to get a very low turnout. And I know that for a fact because of the things that people have been sending me here at the 6 Screens. What people have been sending me is information on where they're going to the convention. Now, regional conventions usually, they're bigger than the assemblies, right? Assemblies, you might get 1,200 people, maybe 1,000 people, 1,500 maybe at tops. But regional conventions, they would usually bring 10,000 people, 15,000 people, 50,000 people. I mean, these were big. These were the big stadiums and convention sites. But now the Watchtower is very afraid that they're not going to be able to fill some of these arenas up. So what they're doing is a lot of these conventions, according to the information I've been getting in here, people have been writing me and telling me that they're going to an assembly hall rather than go to their arena where they used to have tens of thousands of people. They're just meeting in a little assembly hall owned by the Watchtower. For example, I'll give an example. You say, well, Rick, give us an example. I will. How about the Cow Palace? Oh, my goodness, the Cow Palace. That's a big stadium out in California. So they're not going to be meeting there this year. No, they're not. They're being sent to the Arco Arena. I guess it's in Sacramento. I'm not sure. But anyways, that's where they were going to meet. They met after the Cow Palace. They downsized it to the Arco Arena. But now it looks like this year they're going to meet at the Fremont Assembly Hall. So, I mean, from the Cow Palace to the Fremont Assembly Hall, I would say that's kind of like a smaller venue, right? Then in Australia, we see the same thing happening. And even information coming into me from Virginia. They used to meet at the Hampton Coliseum that used to seat 10,000 people. And they're not going to meet there this year. So they're meeting in smaller arrangements. I'm getting a whole lot of people writing me and telling me that. So, things are changing. Don't look for these big convention sites. Who wants to say something? Go ahead. You're on with me.
Hello, Rick.
Yeah.
Rick, I was going to say I'm originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, like Anne Marie.
Yeah.
And we used to have our district conventions in the summer at Candlestick. Then it was the Oakland Coliseum, and then it was the Cow Palace. So you're talking about an average was about 25,000 people daily for the 4-day convention back in the days when they had them 4 days. Fremont, when you mentioned Fremont Assembly Hall, we used to have our circuit assemblies there. That's over on Osgood Road in the East Bay in Fremont. And those were our circuit assemblies. And those only held, that assembly hall only held 2,000 people. So what a drop, Rick, from going from 25,000 people to 2,000. I think it helps the listeners to really get a perspective, of what a drop in attendance for these conventions. So thank you.
Well, Constance, you're absolutely right. And it does give it more of a perspective, but this is not the only one. I've been dealing here with a good 10 of them that have given me information on where they used to meet and where they're meeting now. In the meeting they're making conventions into an assembly. So this is something really that shows you the Watchtower's hemorrhaging. They don't, not only that, they're scared to death let's just roll the clocks back prior to COVID. Well, they had a convention down in Los Angeles, and that's where Gilbert, our good friend Gilbert, he had the plane fly over. That was in San Diego, and there wasn't anybody there. Empty seats all over the place. They're scared to death to have a big arena like they used to have. There'll be nothing but empty seats. So, I tell you, the Watchtower, they are realizing this, and they're just hoping. They're hoping they can get as many people to these conventions as they can. Go ahead, you're on with us. What would you like to say?
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Rick.
We got a sister first. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to back up what Constance. Says. I grew up across from the Cow Palace, and we went, and it was huge, and it was huge compared to the Fremont Assembly Hall. And the Fremont Assembly Hall was just like a really large Kingdom Hall, like Constance said, about 2,000 people. And compared to the Fremont Assembly Hall, you could fit about 5 or 6 assembly halls of Fremont in the Cow Palace at one convention. And there were several conventions every summer that were held at the Cow Palace. So if they're downsizing, that says a lot of thousands of people are going. That's terrible. And Rick, I wanted to ask you, with the lack of people showing up at the conventions, empty seats and all, didn't in 2019 or 2020, weren't a few summer conventions actually canceled?
Yes, that's true. It was, yes, prior to COVID. Prior to COVID, some of they were canceled because the Watchtower didn't feel there was going to be enough people to come.
Exactly. I heard that it was that they always project how much money they can expect to take in against how many people that they feel will be attending, and they come up with a number. And we all know at the end of every convention, they would have this brother come up and say, aren't we blessed? Aren't we grateful? Didn't we enjoy an abundant feast of spiritual food? And they, remind us of how grateful and thankful we should be. And then say, unfortunately, we have a deficit, and it was always good for a few more thousands of dollars. And I heard that the real reason why those conventions were canceled was because they realized they would be at a loss. And they're not in the money-losing business. They're in the money-making business. Thank you, Rick.
Well, thank you, Anne-Marie.
Rick, it's Steve.
Yes, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I logged in a little late, so you may or may not have already covered this. The Society's purchase of the Geico building.
We'll be covering that, but that story's coming up. Yeah, we'll get into that in a little while. I haven't covered it yet. Yep.
Okay, that's all.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, thank you, Steve. Yeah, we'll be. Yeah, go ahead.
I had a comment.
Go ahead, Christine. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this subject that you're talking about brought back to mind my experience in San Diego. We, had been. I was in San Diego area for 30 years. We met at the later on named stadium Qualcomm Stadium, and that was a big stadium. But for about 2 years in a row, I think it was, maybe, I'm not sure, don't quote me on it. Looking back, they might have had to do this, like you said, so that they could make more profit. They took half of the stadium and made it a Spanish language convention. And then the other half was English. And would you believe that they carried on both conventions at the same time? And so here we were, how the speakers are quite loud. So I'm on the English side, but I'm getting constant feedback from the Spanish side. And so what I want to say is it might have been due to them trying to either save money or make more of a profit. But the positive side, I didn't really get too much out of the convention. So that was probably good. I didn't, there's a lot of it's weird to be listening in English and then you hear Spanish in the background. So I just wanted to bring that forward because it came to mind I'm not sure if anybody else experienced that. Maybe they could comment on it, but it comes to mind that maybe it was to save money or make more money, but it didn't turn out. It wasn't successful, and they didn't continue that the following, few years. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Christine, for making that comment. But yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to throw out a
Sure.
comment to the audience.
Yeah.
When you're talking, Rick, and you're making a really good point, and somebody comes on and goes, Rick, it drives me crazy, and I know it drives Connie crazy. All of us who's ever been privileged enough to have a program on here would say *6 and what is your comment? We'll ask for comments. But people keep breaking in when you're in mid-sentence. And the thing that really bothers me about that is they're usually off topic. If we're talking about blood transfusions, they want to talk about the difference between crucifixion and impalement. It's, if you're going to comment on here, you got to wait till Rick finishes saying what he's going to say and stop this. Rick. Maybe it's improper for me to say that, but I think it turns a lot of people off. Thanks, Rick.
Well, it does, Dick. It does. And not only that, I mean, when you stopped in the middle of expressing yourself on a news item and, going back and forth to it and trying to pick up where you left off. No, if something's relevant, I can see it. But, I do the news and let me give the story and then people can come in and ask me thoughts about it. I open up the lines. But I'm with you. And I know people are I know people are super zealous. They want to come in and give their thoughts. And I appreciate that. I never want to discourage people totally. But, try to keep it on topic. And let's move it a way that we can all learn. There's got to be a ringmaster here somewhere. I don't want to be the Mr. Mean guy here, but at some point there's got to be some control. We are getting bigger all the time. And I like the idea of what we have. We call it a conference call per se. It's different than a regular radio station. We don't have a screener here. But, some of these big time radio stations, they have a screener. You talk to the screener before you even get on. We don't do that here because I like this idea of us all sitting around the couch, so to speak, and we can just speak up and talk. But let's all do it in a nice, civil, easy to understand each other's way of doing business here. That would be great. All right. Well, let's take a look and see what else is going on. But I just wanted to mention also the organization that they want to get back to these conventions. They're just scared to death that they might not get as many people. And, I'll tell you something, the Watchtower not only made money from getting donations from the conventions, they would make money on parking, and they would also get kickbacks from the hotel rooms, and even some of the restaurants they love the witnesses coming in. And what the hotels would do, the Watchtower would book these rooms for the witnesses, and the Watchtower would get a kickback. They would get free rooms for all of their mucky mucks. So that's something the Watchtower kind of missed during COVID. So now they want to trying to go back to some degree. And now I'm even understanding why they got people traveling further and further to get to a convention site. Some of these people are traveling well over 100 miles, and they're going to have to stay over in a hotel or a motel somewhere. And, I'll tell you something. That was the biggest scam going. They always wanted you to stay at a sanctioned hotel or motel. The Watchtower wanted you to stay at the Holiday Inn in Portland, Maine. And they gave you a few hotels you could stay at, and they didn't want you staying anywhere else. But, I've been finding out, and I got information from a man that gave me some information today about this very subject. He's from Brazil, and he says in Brazil, he went to the convention and decided to stay a few days after the convention, and, everyone else went away, and he stayed there for a few days on vacation. They lowered his hotel room. The Watchtower was telling him he was getting a discount, but as soon as the witnesses left town, they gave him a better discount. So no, they don't get better discounts. And I'm sure you guys can all talk about that. And I remember up in Maine when I used to go to the convention up in Portland, Maine. And I had a hotel up there that I used to do business with. I used to make them signs. And he gave me a really good deal. It was a really nice motel. And Joe, his room rates were, you know, it was close to, it could be $150. Used to give me the room for $89. And I can remember there was a Howard Johnson's down the street where the witnesses were staying, including my witness sister. And I went down to meet them to go to the convention the next day. And geez, it was such a crappy hotel, and they were complaining. And I said, well, I didn't get a room through the Watchtower. And of course, they look at you like you know, like the third monkey on Noah's Ark. They really don't think it's great that you got a room outside the Watchtower, but you got a better room. They didn't give you any breaks at all. Did you guys ever experience that? What do you think? Yeah.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, we'll go with the, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, I remember being chastised, man, when we'd go to the hall and bought a room that wasn't on the list. They go, we go through a great deal of negotiation and this and that, only buy on the list. But like you said, we could maybe get a better deal in a nicer hotel. But we had to use that list. I remember we were chastised pretty good on that, you know?
Oh, yeah, Dan, it's just foolish. But they were getting, what they were doing is they were getting rooms free. They were getting rooms free for their mucky mucks and the, you know, traveling people. They never told you that. But wouldn't it be nice if they did tell you that? Oh, yeah, that's what they were doing.
I never knew that. I never knew the discounts, and I would have never thought of that. But, you know, yeah, the kickbacks on some of these places, you know, it's amazing. And I was going to throw this thought out there, Rick, if somebody hasn't already said it already. But I was thinking about why they would do the smaller conventions. Another reason, you know, Watchtower counts every penny. They're misers. They're tight asses. You know what I mean? They don't let one penny get out of this. Rick, not one freaking penny gets out of Watchtower site. So what they're doing is setting up these micro, I would just call them micro assemblies, right? And they can test, right? Why throw big money at the, you know, we used to go to the Astrodome, the Houston Astrodome in Houston. And now, like you say, they're going to throw out some like little pilot places to go. I think, Rick, they have to assess the damages. I think they're going to see like how many people are still pretending it's COVID and stay at home. How many people do we really have left? So I think these smaller conventions are test runs. Well, you know, like if you were at a meeting, you say, hey, before we, you know, go all out, let's see how many people, you know, it actually looks like more people when you have a smaller convention. More people are driving, you know. I mean, they know all that psychology, Rick. They're marketers. They're master marketers. So they're going to have smaller assemblies that look more full. Hey, we're all together. And then they're going to assess there by the numbers that they get, because they count everything, because they're bean counters. I'll just say they're bean counters. And so they're going to count every person, every head. I mean, Rick, I've worked for corporations like this, where they are so bean counters, count everyone, count everything, make sure that, you know, and they don't let a penny out of their site. So I think that's why they're doing it this way. And should they be able to make a profit by doing a bigger assembly in a certain area, they'll do it just in that area. But man, these people aren't going to let. Don't you agree, Rick?
Oh, I do agree. Well, that's exactly what's going on. I mean, it's a shame the witnesses can't see through all this froth and then see that's what's happening. They're not going to fill a big stadium, but they're going to fill a. I mean, if you take 20,000 people, 50,000 people going to the Cow Palace, then you have a couple of conventions at your assembly site, and it's filled. Yeah. That the witnesses don't see that. They're not thinking straight, you know? Jeez.
No, and we used to have assemblies in areas where they'd strip your car. They'd say, like in Detroit, they'd go, if you're not in this gated community, and I mean, in this parking lot guarded, while you're in there, they would have them in the cheesiest places. We would walk home, be afraid we're going to get mugged. There was cars. If you parked outside the gate, I swear to God, your motor would be taken out. Your motor, your cars. I don't think they care. They
didn't care. Yes, go ahead, Dan.
Do you think this, Rick? I just want to touch on the blood. Do you think that they could make that a conscious matter? Now think about this. I'm not talking about like changing their policy. I'm like, they come out and they say, I know this is just speculation, but they come out and they say, look, we're getting sued for everything. We're in a suing time. Look, here's the deal, guys. You guys know what it says on blood, but we can't enforce it. We can't disfellowship. We can't, you know, all that is legal now. You see what's happening. The world's upside down. Do you think there's a possibility, Rick, of them changing it in that way, in kind of a sleight of hand way, like to where they're not legally bound anymore? Because it's a big thing, this blood thing, and people dying. And like somebody said, for them just to change their policy, I don't think so. But what if they made it a conscious matter, like the organ transplants in the 70s, 79, 80?
Well, no, the thought on that is simply I called the Watchtower about 5 years ago. And because I started hearing that they were thinking of making it a conscious matter. So I called I did. I called the Watchtower and I asked them, they put me in touch with, in fact, a Watchtower lawyer. I don't know why they gave me a lawyer, but they put me in touch with the legal department. And I asked them about making blood a conscientious matter and if that was what was true, because I heard that a few years back. So he said, well, he says, yeah, he says it is a conscientious matter, but he says we must inform you and the witnesses, because at the time I more or less suggested I was a witness. He says what we have to do is let the witnesses know if they do decide to take a blood transfusion, they just fellowship themselves. We don't do it.
Oh.
Yeah, they just fellowship themselves. Yeah. So that's
twisted. That's twisted, Rick.
well, it is twisted. I mean, what's the difference? So, I mean, if you just fellowship yourself, now, Dick Borgie once brought up a good thought on here. If you have the power to just fellowship yourself by refusing a blood transfusion, wouldn't you have the power to reinstate yourself?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
It's a weird thought, but you know what, am I wrong, Rick? Did you hear a while back where it said in Bulgaria, this was when I left in the late 80s, but did you hear in Bulgaria you couldn't get disfellowshipped when they were trying to get into that country? And there was kind of stuff all over the internet that says, how come Jehovah's Witnesses in America get disfellowshipped, in Bulgaria they don't? Because that was one of the questions I asked the elders along with the generation prophecy that got me on apostate watch. Do you remember something like that, where in one country they didn't get disfellowshipped and then in America we did?
Yeah, that's true. That's Bulgaria. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make that up as you go, right?
Well, that was Bulgaria. In other words, in that's here's what's happening right now, Dan. A lot of people are waking up and smelling the coffee. There's still a few that still look lackadaisical, but many, I mean, I don't think all Jehovah's Witnesses are stupid. I think the organization thinks they are. I really do. I believe the organization thinks they're all stupid, but not all of them are. And many of them are beginning to really see through all of this foolishness. They're starting to really scratch their head and say, hey, enough is enough,
I agree, Rick. They're not dumb. I got to tell you, want to hear some good news?
Sure.
My oldest brother, the one that I always get a little tear over, he told my younger brother, he says, yeah, I'm going to give Danny a call. You remember I was wondering, if they changed the policy, and they didn't.
Yeah.
But he said he was going to give me a call. I didn't talk to him, but he called me the other day on FaceTime. Like, talk face to face. It's like a miracle. Like, why would he talk to me? I'm like a full-blown apostate, yelling and screaming. So it's amazing. It's a miracle. I think he might be coming out of there, Rick. But they're not dumb. My uncle gave me the biggest lecture when my mom was dying about where do we get our money, Dan? He goes, where do we get our money? People just give. Jehovah provides. And now we know that isn't the case. And now we're finding out things like you said tonight, that they're getting kickbacks from hotels. It's a big moneymaker. I remember carrying bags full of cash down a special lobby in the back halls when I was a witness. I was a ministerial servant, and they said, you're going to be on the cash detail. And we would literally take full black garbage bags, and they were like trash bags, and we'd take the stairwell up, and there were guards in the stairwell, checkpoints, and they would stop, and we would say our name. Tons of money, but I had no idea, Rick, how much money was being made, the kickbacks and all that stuff. But the point I was making was my uncle was beating me up. Where do we get our money? Where do we get our money? Jehovah provides. We see where you're getting your money now. Where's the billions going? Why are they asking and begging for money every day? Lawsuits. Rick, they're not dumb. They got to be coming out of there by the hordes.
Oh, they are. In fact, I'll tell you what, one of the biggest scandals ever that a convention we reported on was back in the early 80s, I believe it was in Tacoma, Washington at the Tacoma Dome. And the witnesses would always rent the Tacoma Dome out for the conventions. And so the parking, the city controlled the parking. They had the parking lot. They rented the facility, but the city made money on the witnesses parking there for the convention. So the Jehovah's Witness administration went to the city of Tacoma, and they told them that the witnesses are having a hard time paying for parking because a lot of them don't make a lot of money. So could you kind of, eliminate the parking bill and we'll come, because the city wanted the witnesses to come. So they wrapped up the deal. They said, look, we want free parking for our witnesses because they're having a hard time affording it to come and all of that. So Tacoma Dome officials said, fine, we won't charge you for parking. So what do you think the witnesses did? They started selling parking tickets. Yeah, they started selling. Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. No, that's a true story. We've talked about that before on the 6 screens, and so the witnesses started selling parking tickets, and then the city found out about it, and they were really irate. They said, "Geez, they came to us. They wanted us to make a concession, but at the same time, they charged the people." So I mean, it was a big fiasco out there. Unbelievable, Dan.
Isn't it amazing, Rick? Isn't it amazing to look back and to think we were part of such bean counters, building buildings for them for free, and they're selling it off, and we're not even thinking nothing about anything they're doing. Just whatever Watchtower says. Like when I went to that Kingdom Hall over there, and I said, "Well, what are you guys going to do if they sell this?" Well, Jehovah's will be done. When Watchtower says it's Jehovah's will, well, we'll fill up 20 halls in and we'll drive 100 miles because that's Jehovah's will. It's like, man, it's crazy.
I have some information I want to talk to you about for a second. This is Dr. Richmond in California.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, getting back to the convention thing, I don't know if it's been covered. Excuse me if it has, because I was kind of tuning in and out. But when you stay at those hotels, Watchtower, if you read the fine print in the agreement that you agree to when you do this, Watchtower is getting the travel points. So they're getting the travel points so they can use the travel points to fly these governing body members and other people around for free. So that's one thing. And I just want to mention about blood, just real quick. Blood is really living tissue. It's not like alcohol, where alcohol is consumed by the body. If you get blood put into your body, it's not consumed by the body. It's actually technically living tissue. So if you can get an organ transplant, why can't you get a blood transfusion? So anyways, that's my 2 cents for today. And thank you very much. Appreciate everything.
Well, thank you, Dr. Richmond. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming in.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
With the blood transfusion, isn't that a spiritual thing where the Bible says that you shouldn't have anything strangled, and that's where they conjure this thing where you can't take a blood transfusion? But the organization, being an occultic organization, they prevent you from pleading the blood of Jesus Christ. They educate you away from that concept, when pleading the blood of Jesus Christ is what frees you from the demonic. And this organization actually fosters the demonic and its attitudes, because it's like an opposite George church. You don't have a cross, you have an obelisk, but you call it a Staros. You don't have a Holy Spirit. You say it's an impersonal act of force. Jesus Christ isn't the Son of God. God is Jehovah, not Yahweh. Luke 10:7 says, don't go house to house. You go house to house and you espouse a false doctrine to sort of curse yourself. This is a Masonic construction. The Mormons have Joseph Smith said he's the new Mohammed. He had polygamy. It's sex magic. You have the sexual innuendos, scandals in the Watchtower. You have the sexual connotations of Islam, which is the Jannah, that Islamic heaven with 72 virgins and 300 little boys. And you see it in the schools today. This place is under Masonic mind control, which is Islamic mind control. And that is what has to be broken by the blood of Jesus Christ. Thank you for your work, Rick.
Well, thank you. No, I always enjoy what you have to say, but thank you for dialing in and giving us some thoughts on it. I mean, there's people on this program that they go 100% with what you're saying. Then there's others that are going, what is that all about? One of these days, we got to get you to come on a Sunday program and give you a program on here so you can really go into detail. All right. Well, you're on 6 Screens, JW.
Hey, Rick, can I ask a question
Sure.
about the conventions? Go back to that.
Sure.
Because you were mentioning to have smaller venues. I was just wondering, have you heard in the New York area? Because if they have it at the Bliss Theater, where we used to have our circuit assemblies, that's really cutting back. Have you heard where they might be holding the assemblies in the tri-state New York, New Jersey?
Well, I know that the Yankee Stadium is out. I do know that. So there's no Yankee Stadium. There's no Met Stadium. From what I understand, it looks like they will have a New Jersey. They're gonna looks like they're gonna be meeting at the Stanley Theater. That looks like it's gonna hold a convention. Yeah.
That's another one they use for circuit only.
Yeah.
See, now you see the big difference. Now it's district. Yeah.
So they're actually taking these giant, I mean, Yankee Stadium. I can remember my mother back in 1958. She went to the convention. I was just a kid. She left me home and a babysitter. But I can remember she went to the convention. They had the Polo Grounds and they had Yankee Stadium.
My mother got baptized at that one, the International. My mother got baptized at that one.
Did she?
The International in 1958. Yes.
Do you remember how many people were there?
There was both. It was Polo Grounds and Yankee Stadium, so you can just imagine.
I mean, that
I
was spectacular. I think that's the biggest. In fact, I know it's the biggest convention I think ever in the history of
I
America.
don't think that ever happened before. You remember two stadiums?
No.
I've never heard of that before.
From what I can remember here, I don't have the stats in front of me, but there was 258,000 people, I believe, between those two stadiums. So, that was a feather in the cap of the Watchtower. Who could bring those kind of people together? They can't do it now. There's no way they could do it now.
Happen again.
No,
never happen again.
Those days are gone, Shirley.
You can't even fill Yankee Stadium, like you said.
Yeah.
I'm sure they won't be using Citi Field or Yankee Stadium.
Oh no, it's gonna be all these assembly halls, and the Watchtower. They'll even make money on that because a lot of these assembly halls are paid for. But what to do? They'll always have a deficit. They'll get the accountant from the Watchtower. He'll come up on stage. Well, brothers and sisters, we're behind $8,000, but we thank you in advance that Jehovah will certainly bless this convention and you'll be able to help us with your finances. That's what they do. And they'll make, $10,000, $12,000 right there per assembly at least. That's just a starting point.
But Rick, that shows something though. They know better than to get Yankee Stadium or like the Cow Palace in San Francisco, whatever. So they know. They are saying the numbers are dropping. So they're aware. They know what's going on.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, right?
Oh yeah. I have to tell you, Shirley, sometimes we look at the Watchtower, we at least from our perspective, ex-witnesses, apostates, if you would, we look at it and we really criticize them, but they're pretty smart. They're pretty smart. I will say that they're not dummies. They're smart. They know what they're doing. As Dan said earlier, they're great marketers. They know what they're doing. Believe me. Yeah.
So why not get Yankee Stadium? Like they say, the people, they're coming in and all this, but they know better than to do that.
Oh yeah.
They know better than to do that.
Oh yeah. It's unbelievable.
Well, I was thinking maybe with the break, the coronavirus break, a lot have broken the trance that Watchtower has over them being so consistent with the personal in-person meeting attendance. Maybe the trance has broken and the numbers have gone down like your show, I'm sure.
Well, sister, that you're very smart saying that, and that might be, as you would say, the real canary in the coal mine. That canary in the coal mine is beginning to have a hard time breathing because the Watchtower is in collapse, and they, in fact, I'm glad you mentioned it. but I don't know. It's COVID that did it. It's COVID was the great cult killer. No doubt it really hurt the Watchtower.
Absolutely.
It hurt
Because it was
churches.
able to break that trance.
It hurt so many
There
churches.
was, sure. But then Watchtower, I think, wasn't one of the first to open back up again. And there, so there were, I mean, the other churches were open before Watchtower allowed Jehovah's Witnesses. What was that about? Was that because it was a good opportunity to allow people to get out when the time was right? Because they knew that people felt so trapped?
Well, that seems to be what. I'll tell you what. The Watchtower kept dragging their feet, and they wouldn't let the witnesses go back to the Kingdom Halls or conventions. They thought Zoom would be great, but that backfired on them. Well, thank you, sister, for checking in with us. Always good to hear from you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Rick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to just comment. This is Constance.
Yeah.
Here in California, there were several churches that were closed down, and I had heard there was like 20 to 40,000 churches that never reopened because of COVID. But I would like to address what Penny just asked. The reason why Watchtower was closed down is they used the excuse of COVID, like a lot of people did. But the truth of the matter is they were being paid from the government for being closed down. And some churches were just closed down for a year. Watchtower was closed down for 2 years. They kept milking the system for as long as they could because they were getting paid. And that's a fact. So thank you, Rick.
Well, thank you. Thank you. No, I've heard that, Constance, and I believe you're dead on with that. No, there's a lot of money floating around. The government was paying religions to dose out the COVID shots. They were paying religion to, to promulgate and certainly be preaching about COVID and how serious it was. And there was money there for these faith-based organizations. Thank you for sharing that, Constance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're on JW World News, friends. I'll tell you what, that's the news. The Watchtower doesn't want us talking about, but we talk about it every Saturday night. Now, this is the big story of the week. I mean, friends, I have to tell you, if you missed this, you must have had your head under a rock somewhere. Did you hear that Serena Williams is now officially a Jehovah's Witness? Did you know that? And I have to tell you, I got some pictures. I'm going to put some pictures up here of her getting baptized. If you're on YouTube, you'll see it. So let me just show you this. Let me show you some pictures of Serena Williams. She got baptized last Saturday at the Palm Springs, Palm Springs, Florida Convention Center. Now, this is a picture. If you're on YouTube and Facebook, you'll see it. There is Sister Williams. Wow, my goodness. So there she is. She's in the pool at the assembly hall, and she is getting baptized, as you can see. And here's another picture here. Well, there she is there. Well, that's Sister Williams. She's the one with the glasses on, and that's at the assembly hall you're looking at in the background. But it was last Saturday that Serena Williams officially became one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So that is absolutely unbelievable. And, I'm just thinking out loud more than anything. There's a lot of buzz going around the internet this week about Serena. And no doubt there should be some buzz. I got my own feelings, but I'd like to see what some of our audience thinks as well. But let's just talk about her for a few minutes, and then I'm going to open the lines. Now, it's very interesting how Serena was able to go about business. She became a celebrity. She married who she wanted to marry, and she enjoyed all the perks of fame. And then she came into the truth afterwards. Now, let me just set the record clear. Serena was not a baptized Jehovah's Witness up until last Saturday. But she grew up in a Jehovah's Witness family. But she chose not to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. She went out, she married who she wanted, she became a celebrity, she could play professional tennis. So she went out, she had extramarital sex, she had a baby out of wedlock. She curses like a sailor on the court. I mean, geez, she drops the F-bomb all over the place. She wears very provocative and sexy clothing, and she actually even appeared nude during her pregnancy in Vanity Fair. And she lived all of these rich lifestyle, loose lifestyle of the super celebrities. And now that her tennis career is over, it's now time to join Jehovah's exclusive organization on earth. She now becomes a baptized Jehovah's Witness. Well, let's see how long this lasts and how much leeway the organization is going to give her. Now, it won't matter for her. She still gets all the benefits of being a rich celebrity, and Jehovah's Witnesses won't do anything about her actions, I'm sure. She's going to be able to get away with it. I'm sure she's giving tons of money to the Watchtower. In fact, I got information from one person here today, said that he worked as well, Dan talked about it just a few minutes ago. He collected the cash at the convention center. She put $25,000 in there, a check for $25,000 in the box. So, she's giving good amounts of money, and that's even before she was a witness. But now she's a baptized witness. She's going to give them a ton. You think the Watchtower is going to be chasing her around? She's going to be able to get away with whatever she wants. So just like other celebrities who have been Jehovah's Witnesses, the Jacksons, Prince, Larry Graham, that's just to name a few, money talks and everything else walks, right? If you're a rich celebrity Jehovah's Witness, man, you can get away with murder. Now, they couldn't disfellowship her, like I say, because even after she's getting involved in all of this celebrity and rich lifestyle and all of the things she was doing, she was never baptized, so she couldn't be disfellowshipped. But, frankly, you have to stop and think about it. Even though she wasn't disfellowshipped, and there's plenty of people out there listening to this program tonight, they never really were a baptized witness, but they were considered to be one, even though they weren't baptized. They still kind of treated them like Jehovah's Witnesses. But you see, we know, we've been talking about it here for months, for years now, last couple of years. There's going to be a lot of things that seem illogical from a human standpoint. So I know a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, or ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, I should say, this week, they're scratching their head. They're trying to really put this all together. This is crazy. It's not logical that Serena Williams, after all these years of fame and fortune and celebrity lifestyle, it's not logical from a human standpoint that she now becomes a baptized Jehovah's Witness. And not only that, do you know who she married to? She's married to a man named Alexis Ohanian. Alexis Ohanian, he is a co-founder of Reddit. Well, what's that have to do with the price of tomatoes, you're saying? It has a lot to do with it. Reddit is a major forum. This is like a forum online where people write about politics, religion, business. And there's a Reddit forum for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. They have 80,000 members in there. So I'm thinking Serena Williams might ask her husband to take down all the negative posts about Jehovah's Witnesses on Reddit. That could happen. Look at your wife has a big play in what you do, and she could put the pressure on her husband, Alexis. Alexis, get that ex Jehovah's Witness site down. I don't want that. So here she had all the money, she had all the fame, and really, it really doesn't protect her from being lured into a cult. You would think a person with all of that would say, hey, the last thing I'm going to do is join a cult, but they do it. Tom Cruise did it with Scientology, and others do it. So the only thing that can help a person, it doesn't matter how much money you have, how much fame you have, you still can't be protected from being lured into a cult. The only thing that keep you protected is you got to get educated. You have to get educated about the coercion and the undue influence that a cult can bring to you. So I wanted, you want to bring that up. Yeah, go ahead. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you, Rick. And I want to just bring out a slightly different perspective on this Serena, okay? My thought on it is she's got to stay in the media. And what's the best way to stay in the media? Join a freak show. Join the Jehovah's Witnesses. The whole world goes, oh my God. And she's on the front page of every news getting baptized. It's like you said, Tom Cruise in Scientology. You know, I watched a special on Tom Cruise. And you know they paid him a fortune to be in there? They bought him vehicles. Man, if they get a celebrity in there, they are in high cotton, man. If the celebrities are coming in, then and they're the spokesman. And so this girl, I'm sorry, she's ghetto. She's ghetto. She's doing this for her own drama. She's washed up. She's done with her career. She had a good career. Now she's on the bottom. I'm sorry. She's just using the organization for drama. There's no way. She has to be somewhat educated, Rick. She's traveled the world. She's played all over. And then you crawl back into a cult, buckle down, women, you know, put in boxes, women wear, you know, head coverings to go out in service. It's a fake. She's doing it for her own damn media attention. And so she can get on the front page. Yeah, I just kept saying, you know, does that make sense, Rick?
Oh, a lot of sense.
Hey, Dan. Hey, I was going to, I'm sorry to interrupt Dan and Rick. I was going to say that it's a dual purpose that they're using her, Watchtower's using her for publicity and get other people in that cult and you know, for her own satisfaction. And that's all I got to say on that. But
can I ask Dan
anyway.
a question, please? He called Serena ghetto. Just what did he mean by ghetto?
Ghetto is an attitude. Ghetto's a slut for attention. Ghetto's a word you just use. You know, ghetto is it's just being a slut. I mean, you know,
ghetto is not a slut.
It's not a racist.
Yeah. For a certain nationality. Ghetto is not used. Yes,
it's not racist.
Don't bullshit me. You know damn well what ghetto.
My best
ghetto,
man,
no, it's not racist, ma'am.
Hey, but you know
what?
black woman.
You're not going to be fooled. You're not going to know. Don't try it. Don't try it with me, Dan. You know damn well when people say ghetto, you know what that refers to. So don't go all around beating around the bush.
But
ghetto. There's white people live in the ghetto. He's not bamming anybody that's race or any race.
Yeah, well, you know when people say ghetto, you know what that means.
Yeah, but that ain't what
I know what it means. It means anybody in a core.
Oh, ghetto. Yeah.
Well,
okay, right. Yeah, don't pull that.
I have black people call me Negro. You know, they go, "You're Negro." I'm like, I'm not.
People, and black people, are your best friend. That's not it. But you know, when people say ghetto, you know damn well what it means.
I agree with you. I agree.
No, it means poor people.
Hey, Jeff, just cool it for a second. Hold on one second.
That was a poor choice of words. Let me finish.
Can I bring
But I'm just saying, it's just trashy is all.
All right. Let's just hold.
Another word besides ghetto.
You're right. I put up.
Dan is not racist.
Jeff.
Black, and you said ghetto. So let's not.
Yeah, go ahead, Sharon.
I don't want to hear it. Hey, listen, lady.
All participants are muted, and they can unmute themselves.
Hey, listen. This is a free for all here at this point. We got to slow it down a little bit. Jeff, I'm going to ask you just to butt out a little bit. Just let it go, Jeff. Just let it go. We have Shirley in here accusing Dan of making a racist statement. That's what the accusation is here. I heard him say that. I did not in any way. I mean, I'm not being biased, but I did not take that in any way as being racist. There's plenty of white people. We have people on this program that call in from the ghetto. So I think it's kind of a little far-fetched to say ghetto always has to refer to black people. I don't think Dan, in fact, I know Dan didn't mean it that way. And not only that, in the context of Serena Williams, she wasn't from no ghetto. She came from a very wealthy.
No, by no means.
Yeah.
By no means is she from the ghetto. No, by no means. Of course not.
Yeah.
But if he was talking about, I can't. If he was, I can't.
Well, he
Even
was
think,
talking about Serena. He was talking about.
actress or somebody, he would not have said ghetto.
Yeah, but he was taught. We were talking about Serena Williams. Serena Williams is as far from the ghetto as
Exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly.
But I don't.
Serena Williams is black. So if he was talking about a white person that was raised as a witness in the same thing, but only that person was white, the word ghetto would not have been used.
We have a person. We have a.
We're all grown adults.
Oh.
We know when the word is used.
Okay, yeah, but Shirley, but sure, Jeff, just stay out of it for a second. Jeff, stay out of it, Jeff. Okay, just stay out of it. I just have to say one thing just hold back, Jeff. Okay, just hold back. Well, let me just bring this up. All right, I don't see where it was racist. We're talking about we have a person that does a program on here that lives in the ghetto. That has been brought up before. She's white, okay? So
sure, yeah, exactly,
so we went, but I mean, so if I said if I introduced a program, here we are, we got our friend coming in from the ghetto. Is that a racist statement, Shirley?
But socially speaking, when you use the word ghetto, there are poor black, white, purple, polka dot people all over this nation, world of ours, obviously. But when the word is used to describe someone as ghetto, you know what it means.
Well, to you. Okay, all right. Well, let's.
Acknowledge.
All right.
Okay, just know what that means.
You can't reason with a black woman. They're not reasonable. I think you should understand this by now.
Yeah.
Well, see, there's someone that's a racist right there. So there you go.
All right. Well, okay. Let's bring in Susan. Did you have something to say? I heard you kind of trying to get a word in edgewise here. Susan?
Yeah. Yes. I had. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I was thinking, as far as Serena goes, I think one of the reasons that she is waiting 4 months after her retirement to get baptized is she might have made a pact with Jehovah and said, "Let me be a tennis star, and when I'm done, I'll get baptized." I don't see that as something beyond, reality. And second of all, I think next she's going to divorce that husband of hers, and that way the Watchtower will have more control over her purse strings, because they don't want her to have a worldly husband. That's just I know it's kind of taking it a little off the subject you're on, but I just feel that she made a pact with God, to live the life she wants, and then she'll get baptized, and then she'll get divorced, and then she'll do the right thing. As far as the Watchtower.
She got the Michael Jackson deal. She writes the checks. She got the Michael Jackson deal. You can throw your kids' birthday parties and everything. She got the Michael Jackson deal. That's it.
Right.
Hey, Rick.
She does.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
This is Sharon in North Carolina.
Yeah, Sharon.
What the Watchtower just did by letting her get baptized is exactly why Martin Luther nailed his list to the Catholic Church door. The indulgences. They just proved they are a daughter of Babylon the Great, a daughter of the Catholic Church. That's what they just did. And if these Jehovah's Witnesses cannot see through this, then they're lost. They're truly, truly lost.
Well, in fact, thank you for saying that, Sharon. I have to really say more things here about the Watchtower and Serena Williams. Usually a cult like the Watchtower, for the most part, they attract the poor in spirit and the disenfranchised people. They don't usually find people who are celebrities or people making a lot of money that are not down on their luck. They usually don't find these people, for the most part, joining the Jehovah's Witnesses. So I just wanted to bring that up. This is kind of unusual that you have a woman like this becoming a Jehovah's Witness. And inevitably, you're going to see a video shortly. I can see it coming right now on JW streaming. I can see it happening. There'll be a video on their website on how empty and unrewarding her life was before being baptized. Oh, they're going to do everything.
And what they're doing with that video is promoting idolatry.
Yeah, well, Sharon, you could classify it as that, but that's what they're going to do. So they're going to say that, Serena Williams, big time tennis star, they're going to say that, she left the fame and the money and she was so empty, and now she decided to get baptized and devote herself to Jehovah God. That's how I'm looking at it. Yeah.
You think probably they're losing their power as the idolatry symbol, so they had to go and find something else. And here comes Serena going right into their hands, another form of idolatry. Babylon the Great, right there. Could even be the Jezebel spirit, for all we know.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem that I got.
It's interesting that you use the word disenfranchised, because Sharon, I was hello.
Go let Penny speak for a couple of minutes, and then we'll go to you, Carrie. Yeah, go ahead, Penny.
I was just saying that, like Sharon, we were disenfranchised as children. We weren't allowed to have these opportunities to reach our potential. We couldn't negotiate with our parents. There was no negotiating. Well, maybe I'll become a figure skater or some sort of athlete or a singer, entertainer, and then I'll come back after I've made my millions. There was nothing like this. This was not even an option.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Penny. It's an oddity. It's an oddity. Thank you. Thank you very much, Penny. Okay, Carrie, I think you're next. Go ahead, Carrie.
Hello?
Hold on, Mike. Let's go with Carrie first. And Mike, don't make any statements that are going to create some issues. So let's go with Carrie first. Go ahead, Carrie. Was it Carrie? Maybe it wasn't Carrie. There was another sister on there that wanted to say something.
Yeah. Rick, can you hear me?
Yes. Who's this?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's Gail from Burlington. How are you, Rick?
I'm good, Gail. I'm good. Thank you very much, Gail. Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to make two comments, if I may. My comment is I call Serena a convenient witness. See, that right now it's convenient for her to be a witness, and the hypocrisy around this is what really gets me sick, because the Watchtower is really showing what they're all made of, which is hypocrites. And I also want to make a comment about the ghetto remark. As far as I'm concerned, ghetto to me means you're white trash or you come from the projects. When I was growing up, that's what they would call it. And I think going forward, there should be a precedent that if we're going to make comments, that everybody should, choose your words carefully and try to be kind with your comments instead of making derogatory remarks, because you don't get anywhere when you do that with the name calling. And as far as Serena goes, every time she's won an award, she's always given praise to Jehovah God. I'm not making excuses for her, believe me, but they were just showing her praising Jehovah all the time. But like everyone else is saying, yeah, it's all about the money. Same with when Prince was a witness. He gave lots of money to the Watchtower, and I'm sure Serena's going to give a lot more. But it's hypocrisy, and I think that's what everybody's upset about, because it's upsetting to me too. And the people know that Serena did I don't know, she did lyrics and music with JC and Beyonce, and we all know what they stand for. So those are just my two comments, and thanks for letting me speak. Bye.
Well, thank you, sister, for calling in. I think we had some other people too. I mean, a lot of people want to weigh in on this. I know. Go ahead, you're with us. Go ahead, you're on. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say real quick. I think she made positive comments about like the BLM protesting and all that. Wouldn't that be a violation of the political neutrality?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Mike. Now, I don't want to get accused of racism or I'm against the black people or anything with this comment. But Serena was a spokesperson. At least she's spoken out in support of BLM, Black Lives Matter. She also spoke out on gender equality and gay rights. She has done that. She's been very outspoken in that area. So I'm wondering, how is she going to be able to handle that? Is she just going to be able to discount that? And the Watchtower is not going to let her get involved in that. No way, Jose.
I don't know.
No, I
remember one time, Rick, I don't know if you recall this. I know I read an article once there was a girl that got raped or something like that. And this was a few years ago. I don't know if she was at a wild party or something like that, was drunk, these guys took pictures of her or whatever. And I believe Serena Williams made the comment, like, well, what were you doing there? And I kind of thought, well, yeah, that kind of sounds like what a witness might say, like it's sort of your fault which is some validity to it, but I think she got a little backlash for saying that. That sounds kind of like something a witness would say, But the protest, I didn't know she said anything about the gays, but no, I know she said positive things about BLM. I mean, maybe she's just looking at it for what they're saying. Maybe she just the saying, but some people say that they stand for communism. Not to, I don't want to upset anybody, but if you go to the website and read what they believe in.
Yeah. Well, but the point that I want to make with even bringing that up, and I don't want to beat it to death here, but the point I wanted to, the Watchtower will not let her be in support of any of these gender equality, gay rights, supporting BLM. She's going to have to get that out of her framework of thinking. And they're going to, she's going to have some issues here. I don't know how you can come out of being such a big celebrity like Serena Williams. I mean, she's a superstar. Let's go with that. I mean, I didn't care much for her, really.
Well,
But
I think generally in the world, I think she sort of has a positive image with most people. I mean, she's had a few incidents, but she's not as provocative as like a Michael Jackson was. But also, you brought out like, is it my understanding was, as far as maybe I'm wrong, but her mother was a witness and her father wasn't. I think he was the one that pushed her into tennis.
Well,
so when you grow, so she kind of grew up in a divided home.
Well, in fact, I'm going to talk about her father here in a few minutes. I mean, if you don't, the problems in this family go beyond what we would even think. I got information that was sent to me concerning her father, but that's another story. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But what I wanted to bring, yes, Kurt.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, just a brief comment. Kind of state the obvious. No one knows Serena Williams' heart condition. Number two, the Watchtower doesn't stop anybody from getting baptized. It goes through the procedures, the steps. And number three, the Watchtower is always interested in money. So for me, that about sums it up. But thank you for taking my call.
All right, Kurt. Well, this is I'm not lambasting Serena Williams here. I'm not. I do say I will give her credit for what she has accomplished. However, there's some issues here that have been brought up, and this is not to really put Serena in a bad light per se, but being ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, look at all of us, we know what it was like growing up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And even if you weren't a baptized witness, you still came under the same auspices or the same degree of understanding and at least connecting with their ways of doing business. But, she seemed to avoid all of this as a younger person. And she went out and she did her whole life what she wanted to do, married a man, had extramarital sex, had a baby out of wedlock, became a superstar in tennis. And now that that's all behind her, I'll just become a Jehovah's Witness now. And that, that's what I'm looking at as maybe a little bit deceiving. And well, we'll get a little bit more into this, but let me.
I wanted to share some personal experience, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. When I grew up in Los Angeles, I was a witness and entertainment. My mother was in entertainment, my parents, and I knew all the people who are in entertainment. And I just wanted to share some insights into how she probably turned to baptism.
Yeah.
I saw some people rise to superstardom, and I'm not going to drop names because I just don't think it's appropriate. Some witnesses, some not. And even my mother, she got this fellowship. She worked with some of the biggest things in entertainment. There's a lot of spiritism in Hollywood, Hollywood Hills, Hollywood, the whole thing. I went to Hollywood Congregation from the age of 10 to 15 and went back. But the thing is that in Hollywood, there's so much spiritism that I think
what happens is, and a lot of these quote unquote stars, they're as miserable and as blind and as lost as your average Jehovah's Witness. To me, Hollywood looked, when people become famous, there was like a sadness and a misery that would come over them. And I would wonder why, you know, like 10, 11, 12. And my mother, they were priming her to be a star, because you just, you know, there's a whole machine that makes a star. So she was into that. She got this fellowship. She left my dad, and what, you know, so, and then she married a few entertainers. And so I was in this movie studio, the recording studio, the contract, and it's really, you know, there's so much spirit to it that I think, you know, even though she's a star, she plays tennis, her world is very small. And they do get to travel the world, but it's like the bigger the star, the smaller their world becomes. And a lot of the handlers use spiritism. And then, so they'll say like, wow, you know, this is Satan's system. And so they'll want to, you know, after they have a taste of that, it's like, oh, I want to go back to, you know, what they know. But they're, just because they're famous or whatever, their world is so, like when I would, not only did I, so I think, you know, after she went through all this, she saw probably, you see lots of very sad and horrible things in Hollywood. It's such a facade that then you say, oh, well, you know what? Jehovah's Way is right. And I went through that myself. But you know, now I finally made the connection that it's all one big satanic system, because when they would do the spell casting stuff and they would use the name Jehovah, I would think, wow, you know, they're doing this to disrespect the true God. But no, that name is used in spell casting.
Yeah.
And then,
well, let me ask you this. I mean, can I come in here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to come in. If you don't mind, I mean, really, I appreciate what you're saying, but is it possible that you could share a name with us? I mean, could you tell us who your mother was? Is that possible?
No, I'd rather not.
All right. I mean, I don't want to force you. I don't want to force you, but I mean, you know, people are probably wondering. If they're wondering, well, who is this? You know,
Well, she's not. She never became famous. She worked with the biggest names. She you know, they primed her, and she didn't get, you know, famous like that. But so if I name other people, I don't, you know.
All right. Well, no, if you're not comfortable, that's fine. But okay, so what would the bottom line be here? So, well, how are you tying this in with Serena Williams?
I think with what she's seen, even though sometimes people think that stars have this fabulous life and they're just exposed to so much knowledge and information, and in a sense they are, but it's like she grew up, I guess, in Compton. You know, she was born there or whatever. Her mom went to the congregations over there, I guess. But I think that's what, you know, caused her to get baptized, seeing, you know, all the yuck in Hollywood. And she's at the stage and age where she says, wow, you know, I better get baptized, get myself together. And as she goes on, I guarantee you, she's probably going to realize some do, so some don't, you know.
Okay.
Larry.
All right. Well, we're gonna get moving on. We can't, you know, belabor this too much.
No.
So okay. So you're basically saying that starhood can really create some issues in your life, right?
Yeah, and if you think, you know, Jehovah, she was raised as a witness, so you think, you know, I'm sure she's seen some things that are very, you know, make you say, wow, I better get myself together, you know. And so I think that's what, you know, sometimes people think the star of life is so good, and it's really, there's so much like blindness and sadness and misery. And when I was young, I didn't understand, wow, you just got a recording contract, or you're famous. What's the sadness? Big houses, big cars, but it's like it's all a facade. They really don't enjoy it. So
well, you're right. You're right. I got you. We got it. We got it. We follow what you're saying, sister. No, well, fine.
I'm kind of philosophical right now because you know, it's just,
emotional for
Well,
me.
we got it. We got it. No, well, thank you for sharing it. But we got it. In other words, just because you're famous and have a lot of money and live in mansions and drive beautiful cars doesn't mean you're happy, right?
Yeah, that it's deeper than that. It's like a sadness comes with it. You know what I'm saying? It's always, people speak of a sacrifice.
Well, yeah, but let me tell you let me tell you what's going to happen with her. Okay, she obviously has many friends that are not Jehovah's Witnesses. Gee, she has sports
Right.
friends. She has all of these people that she's met all of these years of her life, and now all of a sudden, she's not going to be able to associate with these people. She's going to be able. She's not going to. She's not. These people are going to have to be cut off. And, is she going to be able to handle something like this? I mean, she probably knows the dignitaries. She probably met the royal family. She's met with presidents. And
She has.
yeah. So now all of a sudden, the Jehovah's Witnesses, if she's going to be a baptized witness, they're going to discourage her from any outside friends. How is she going to deal with that? And depending on how devout you are, this could really get you in trouble. I mean, geez, you could be the most devout Jehovah's Witness, but geez, all these people you knew, don't speak with them. They're really bad influence. This is going to create some serious problems for her. I feel bad for her. I mean,
Well,
yeah,
the people around the witnesses, like for Larry Graham, you guys know who he is.
yeah.
He was Teresa Graves. There's plenty of people who aren't super duper famous. What Larry Graham is, he's very famous, from his time. But
Right.
the people in Hollywood, it's kind of like, oh, you're a witness, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? It's not like a big deal for them. So it's kind of like, because they're kind of in a lost world too. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like it's a cult like Jehovah's Witnesses, but it's like another aspect of Satan.
Yeah.
And really, that's why I know, you know what I'm saying?
I know. I got you. I know where you're coming from. She's
and it's misery.
Yeah.
They're as lost and as
Yeah.
miserable
Yeah.
as the Jehovah's Witness.
Well, I'm not gonna go on. I'm not gonna go on the record to say Serena Williams lived a miserable life. I think she.
No.
I mean, when you win tennis matches and you're a superstar, your life for the most part isn't miserable. It might be a little disconnected at times.
It can
Yeah.
get very miserable, and not for her. She was, tennis is one thing, but people's lives get very sad. Why do you think they're always partying, always getting high? It's because to negate this, there's so much fear in Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same kind of fear and sadness as a witness, because they have money, but it's like they don't.
Yeah, let's move. We're gonna move on now. We got more callers that want to call in, but we get what you're saying, sister. Thank you for checking in. Go ahead. You're on with us, sir. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Rick.
Let's go with this fella first, the one that was talking first. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. My name is Steve Brunel,
Yes, Steve.
and I met you many, many years ago. Quick story. I was a baptized Jehovah's Witness in 1986. Lived all the years as a Jehovah's Witness up until recently. I was an elder for 10 years in the Haverhill congregation, and I met you, 20 years ago. You came into my place on Route 125 in Plastow. I was a mortgage broker, and you were trying to sell me signs or something like that. And somebody told me, "Oh, don't talk to that guy. He's an apostate." And so I don't know if you remember, but the next time you came in, I said, "No, I can't talk to you. You're an apostate," and you left. And fast forward all these years, Rick, I have to be a man and tell you, you were right.
Well, thank you. I don't know if I really got into too much of a discussion with you, but I kind of vaguely remember that. Yeah, but I wasn't mean to you, right?
No. You were very nice, and if anything, I was mean to you.
Yeah.
I kind of threw you out of my place, and I just said, "Hey, listen, you're an apostate. I don't want to talk to you."
Yeah, I mean, I got that all the time, not just because I'm an apostate, but people throwing me out of their place because they didn't want to buy my signs, you know?
But Rick, I'll tell you, I'm being a man, and I apologize because I was wrong and you were right.
Well, thank you.
Fast forward.
Well, thank you.
Fast forward to 2 or 3 years ago when this COVID crap started to come out. I was very wary of the jab, and I researched it and I found out it was a very bad thing to do. And so I started questioning it, and when the governing body came out with those 10 updates, it was like a kick in the teeth. Every update was really pushing the jab and pushing the jab and pushing the jab. And I was disgusted. And I said to myself, if this vaccine is something that's going to hurt Jehovah's people, why would Jehovah, allow this to happen? And, people were telling me, oh, well, vaccine is good for you, and, blah, 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 blah. And I just, at that point, I came to my senses. I started to do some research, and I found out that the Watchtower Society was infiltrated by the Masons many, many years ago. And I made a decision at that point to walk away. And I talked to the brothers. So I said, listen, don't contact me. Don't come to my house. And they know me. They know, who I am, and I'm a serious guy. And they never contacted me. And but I feel that the number one thing that is going to bring the Watchtower down is not child sexual abuse. I feel like the fact that they coerced and pushed the jab on people, and there's many brothers and sisters that have died. I personally know many of them, and have been severely injured by the vaccine.
Wow. Well, that's something to think about. I mean, I wouldn't discount it. And as more and more people come forward with this information, so what can we call you for your first name there, brother?
My name is Steve.
Oh, Steve. All right, Steve. Very, very good. We got a lot of Steves coming in. Well, thank you, Steve. Thank you. Well, I'm familiar with Haverhill. In fact,
And
yeah.
I would like to talk to you too and contact you. I was from Haverhill Congregation, and I'll give you my phone number. I'll give anyone my phone number. I don't care. I'm not hiding anything. I feel the way I feel, and I feel like the governing body is blood guilty for pushing the vaccine on innocent people, and that many, many people, if you do your homework, are dying.
Well, no, I'm glad you're bringing that up. Why don't we do this? I don't know if I want to give you a phone number over the air here, but if you want to, you want to give it over the air?
I'll give it over the air. I don't care.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead. When we can get a hold of Steve. Go ahead, Steve. What's your number?
My number is 603.
Yeah.
560 1660. And any one that is, that wants to talk to me, I'll talk to them. But I feel strongly that this vaccine is a kill shot, and that the governing body knows it's a kill shot, and they've unleashed it onto the people because they're demonic.
Well, you got a point there. You got a point there. Now, we can't talk too much about that right now because we're on YouTube, and they'll give me trouble.
I know.
They'll give me trouble over that. But I get you. I get you. I get you, Jess. They've already been on my case about it. But geez, well, that's great, Steve. So I might be even giving you a call, and geez, maybe we can get you.
Rick, call me. We'll get together and we'll talk.
Hey, I'd love to do it. I might even sell you a sign.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Steve, for coming in. Well, that's Steve out there.
Have a good one.
Thank you. That's Steve out there in Haverhill, Massachusetts. That's the Dick Borgie country. My goodness, we all know Haverhill. So anyways, you're on JW World News. That's the news. The Watchtower, as we keep saying, doesn't want us talking about it. They don't want it. And just getting back to yes.
Hey, the young girl that was calling, she was having a hard time, I guess, because she kept saying, so she was having a hard time getting her message out. And I just wanted to ask you, I was thinking when I was listening to her, a cult within a cult. So do you think that Hollywood Jehovah's Witnesses, West Palm Beach Jehovah's Witnesses, very rich kingdom halls with a lot of money, do you think that they are like a cult within a cult, and that's probably what she was trying to explain? I don't, because I went to a poor kingdom hall.
Oh yeah, the rich are different.
That's all. That was just my question.
I think Serena's wonderful. I've always admired everything about her: her looks, style, her talent, her sports ability, the fact she's an Olympian, she married well. There's a whole list. I go with Susan's notion that she may have made a prayer to God to do this after she retired. She may have told her mother, after I retire, I do it. I think it was a Serena thing, and we'll see how it goes. But if she's a Hollywood witness now, that's a different world unto itself. And she's very stylish. She's got her own clothing line, but the skirt was beautiful and a knee length, but it was a little bit snug. And if Sister Average had worn a skirt snug like that, that wouldn't have been good, but Serena can probably get by with it.
Well, yeah.
Hey, Rick?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Rick. Poor Rick can't get a word in edgewise. This is Carrie. I just wanted to say something real quick about the brother that just called in. We were told way back when that it was okay to speak to, if you went into a business and there was a brother or sister that was disfellowshipped, we could speak to them as a business transaction or whatever. So it wasn't a big deal. But it's a different story outside of their business. But we could speak to them.
Yeah, we could. We could, but it wasn't really something the Watchtower promulgated. They didn't want us to. They know we would. But you just stop and think about it. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I did a little research here on Serena. She has 10.6 million followers on Twitter. Gee, she has a whole lot of people she knows on Twitter, and they all follow her. And I'm sure she's met many a high-profile people, legislators. She's met, I'm sure, friends in Congress that she has. She's met the royals. She's met the presidents a few times. And, right now, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're jumping up and down with excitement that, oh, we got Serena. She's our new sister. And, oh, this is wonderful. But as soon as Serena settles down a little bit, and then the water comes off of her non-logo T-shirt, I think she's going to start thinking, what did I do?
I love it.
What did I?
That's a good one.
What did I do? Because it's going to really affect her life. Jeez, sometimes people do things, but I'll go with Susan. I'll go with what Pixie just said. Maybe somehow, some way, she said that when she retires from tennis, that she might have made a commitment to her mother or whoever that she would become one of Jehovah's Witnesses. But now she's going to face the real dark side of the Watchtower organization. She never saw it as an unbaptized witness. You're not going to see the real dark side. Now that she's a baptized witness, you're going to have the elders tapping on her shoulder. Can I talk with you, Serena? I want to see you in the back room after this meeting. And now they're going to start putting her through the interrogation. going to put her through the interrogation. Why are you still talking to Vanity Fair about, putting bathing suits on and looking half nude? You can't do that as a Jehovah's Witness. And why are you still fraternizing with some of your worldly friends? You really shouldn't be doing that. They're going to be very outspoken. And yet, at the same time, I think Serena's going to be outspoken. I tell you what, I mean, she has more followers than the Watchtower. I mean, she's got all these people that love her, and she's going to be able to really have a powerful influence on people that are in the Watchtower. They're going to almost be making her a member of the governing body. Yeah, go ahead.
I get to interrupt you. I'm your wife.
That's okay. My wife can always interrupt me. I have no problem with
I
that.
can interrupt you.
Yes.
There's going to be a problem now in the Kingdom Hall. So what happens if a young sister, 10, 12, 15, says, I want to be a tennis star like Serena, and when I'm done with my career, I'm going to get baptized. There's going to be a whole slew of athletes that are going to want. That's going to be a problem in the congregations. You just wait.
Well, there you go. No, I didn't think of that, Susan. But they're going to emulate her. I mean, she's going to be like the first governing body woman. I mean, they're going to look to her as though she's the queen of the mountain. It is.
Hey, Rick, that's a good point. And how do you run all those businesses? Watchtower, is pushing door to door. Get out there. The blood's, on your hands, and you can't do both. You can't have all those businesses, and like you said, you're always going to be compromising. Getting in bathing suits and clothing lines, and I mean, how do you say you're not part of the world? Which most witnesses, like Susan said, they're just doing menial jobs, trying to serve Jehovah, and they want you out door to door on Saturday. I don't know how she could do both. I really don't, unless it's really, really different here in Hollywood, which it probably is.
Well, she's going to have to follow the witness ways of doing business. But I'm going to tell you, there's a good thing, and there's a bright spot here. Well, what I'm thinking is because of living the lifestyle that she has been living for so many years, this is going to be a stark difference in her life. And I give her about 3 years. I could be wrong, but I give her 3 years, and she might even start coming over to our team. We might have she might even become an ex-witness and be one of the world's most outspoken and visible activists against the Watchtower. She's going to have to make some major adjustments, major adjustments, Yes, go ahead, Jeff.
Wow. Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to use her for propaganda. That's all they're going to do.
Yeah.
With her history, her career and everything else, they're going to say, hey, look, she's a witness now, and what have you. And
yeah.
They're going to use that to bring more people in. My story there.
Well, it's a good marketing technique.
Rick?
Yes, Kurt, go ahead.
I hate to interrupt you. I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but tonight, a lot of the call-ins, I'm having a hard time hearing them. I'm hearing you really clearly. Obviously, some people more than others, but I don't know. I don't guess there's anything you can do about it, especially on YouTube. I'm just having a hard time hearing people. I thought I'd just tell you that. I don't know if anybody else feels that way or not. Okay, thanks.
Okay. I'm not sure why. I'll turn my phone up a little bit louder here. Maybe they can hear better. But thank you for saying that, Kurt. Yeah, go ahead. You're on with us.
Yeah, Rick, you remember when Michael Jackson had married Lisa Marie Presley? Didn't she become a witness when they were married?
I believe she did. Yes.
Did they ever? She never was disfellowship or anything, was she?
No, I know she just died this week, but I don't think she stayed in the witnesses. I don't know if she just fellowshipped or what, but I did hear that once, that I do believe she did become a witness for a while. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well.
All right. Thank you.
All right. I wish I had more to tell you about it, but that's all I know. But
Hey, Rick,
yes.
How do you come back in subjection to a bunch of men, right, that are running the congregation, that are narcissists? Women are second. I mean, unless it's different in Hollywood, and I probably am. I probably don't know what I'm talking about, but it's just such an authoritarian, and she's educated. She runs businesses. She's corporate. She's a superstar. You know what I mean? Like how do you put yourself back under? That's why I made that statement about about it's just for show. It's like when people see these big celebrities go witness it or go Scientology, they're front page news. I can't think for the life of me why she would want to go back into a cramped, narrow-minded, don't accept everybody. And think about this, Rick. The world is supposed to genocide everybody. Everybody's supposed to be genocided. Those are her million followers. Those are people she sells clothing to. How do you live in both worlds, Rick? Come on,
Well, no, you can't, Dan. That's why I'm going to tell you what. Serena's going to land up either terribly depressed or she's going to be one of the most outspoken activists against the Watchtower there would be. Well, only time will tell. We'll see.
I agree. Yeah.
She got the Michael Jackson deal, Rick. It's a Michael Jackson deal. Remember, he got away with everything. Just keep those checks coming in. That's all. It's the Michael Jackson thing.
Well, yeah,
Yep,
no,
that's it.
well, you're right, Shirley. It's really money talks. Money talks. Yeah, that's it. I mean, for sure. I'll tell you what, but no, here's the other thing. The story doesn't stop here. I don't know if a lot of people are aware of it or not, but I wasn't. But my wife, Susan, my beautiful wife, Susan, she sent me some information on Serena Williams' father. And I had no clue to what was going on. I had no clue to what was going on in that family. Now, evidently, the mother still evidently is, though she got divorced evidently from her husband Richard, but they call him King Richard Williams. That's Serena Williams' father, and he is really ailing right now. He's really disgusted on what's happening with him. Now, he's a staunch Jehovah's Witness, and he's in a bitter divorce battle with his estranged wife. Now, his wife is a lot younger than him. The wife's name is Lakeisha, and she's 37 years younger than Richard, Serena's father. Now, that's an oddball situation, right? But he's very upset with his wife, Lakeisha, because she actually forged his signature for a $600,000 debt on his family home where Serena and Venus Williams grew up. So he's all upset with Lakeisha. They're in a big battle right now. They're trying to go through a court arrangement here. Lakeisha's got to file for bankruptcy, and of course it's affecting Richard as well. But I didn't realize that the family was so turned upside down. But the father is, in fact, I'm going to put a picture up. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, I'm going to put a picture up of King Richard, they call him. Let me get his picture up for you so you can see him. He's a staunch Jehovah's Witness. Now, there he is right there. Now, he's 80 years old, and that picture he might be a little bit younger. But notice his wife there. That's Lakeisha. And Lakeisha, of course, my goodness, it looks like that could be his granddaughter, really, right? But no, notice how much involved with Jehovah's Witnesses Richard is. Take a look closely at the shirt. I don't know if you can notice it or not, but it's embroidered on his polo shirt, Jehovah. Plus, he also had it embroidered on a baseball cap. So, I mean, this guy is a staunch Jehovah's Witness. So I wanted to bring that into the equation tonight. And the reason why I'm bringing it in is maybe, I mean, he's the one that really taught Serena how to play tennis. If you follow the story, he was the one that took her out on the tennis court when she was just a little kid and taught her and Serena how to play tennis. So she might have a real, love for her father. I mean, he helped her become the champion tennis player, perhaps of all time. And so she might really have a deep feeling for him. I'm just hypothesizing here. Don't take it to the bank and cash it because I don't know. But I'm just thinking maybe that's one of the reasons why Serena wanted to become a Jehovah's Witness to appease her father. That's a possibility. But if that's the reason, it's not going to last. Nobody nobody can really become a Jehovah's Witness because they want to please somebody. It won't work. It might work for a few years, but it doesn't last long. You have to become a Jehovah's Witness because you want to be one. You can't be coerced into it. And this may be the situation with Richard Williams. Only time will tell. So that's what I want to bring out tonight. So, anyways, so maybe that's enough about.
Hey,
Yeah.
Isn't that name King Richard just go against Jehovah to begin with?
In some ways, it does. I mean, that's kind of like a nickname that he got. I'm not sure how he got the nickname. I think it might do with his, well, maybe because of his ability to teach his children tennis. I don't know how he got the name. I'm just thinking out loud. Yeah, King Richard. Yep. All right, so. We should probably put this story to bed here. I mean, we beat it to death. I don't know what else we can say about it, but I mean, it's been all over the internet. This was the biggest story in the ex-witness world, and even in the Jehovah's Witness world. This is where two stories met. Even the Jehovah's Witnesses. Oh, they're all excited about Serena. They're putting pictures up on their Facebook group and putting pictures up at the assembly hall where she got baptized, and oh, they're welcoming her in. So even the witness world is all excited about Serena Williams, as well as the ex-witness world as well. So there you go. There's both worlds. Yes.
That story about Letitia.
Yeah.
And King Richard.
Yeah.
I mean, I just call him King Richard, so you know what I'm talking about. She's not a witness, so I don't know how strong of a witness he is, because he did marry out of his so-called truth, and they've only been married a few years. So he married someone a lot younger than him. I mean, a lot. I don't know what he was thinking when he married. If he thought she married him for love, I mean, she loved his bank account.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Well, he lived in a really nice house.
I don't know how spiritual.
Yeah. Well, Susan, you're right. That doesn't make sense either. I tried to get more out of the story, but I was wondering, what in goodness name's sake is this man thinking? I mean, didn't the witnesses even kind of discourage him? I mean, they were so. Let me get Richard out of the scene here right now. But anyways, let me see if I can't. Okay, that's it. But let me just see if I can go back here. What did I say? She's 37 years younger. Yeah, 37 years.
She's 37 years younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
37. I mean,
because I have to take a double take at that, because, you know, he says if he's supposed to be so close to the Kingdom Hall, maybe he is now because he made mistakes. And I had something else to say about Serena here. You know, she had viewpoints that she liked Black Lives Matter, and I'm not taking sides. I'm just saying, if she wants to promote that political party, I guess you would call it, or you know, her viewpoints on the gay people. I mean, those aren't teachings that Jehovah's Witnesses teach. They're very much against those. So in 4 months, how did she go from that to giving that up? And if your child had those beliefs, and then 4 months later they let them get baptized, I don't think so. I don't know. They'd probably be publicly reproved.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, reproved somehow.
Yeah, something doesn't pass the smell test here, but I'm laughing. I'm seeing what people are writing on the various platforms around, but the video's sweet. Someone wrote in there. Let me read you this. They wrote in there that Rick should offer Serena a weekend show. she could come on as a governing body member and let us know what's going on. I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about Serena. All right.
Hey, Rick, they wanted you to be part of the governing body. Gilbert wants you to be on the governing body. We got Serena.
Jeez, we're all in a race for the governing body. My goodness. In fact, I don't know if you heard that, Gilbert. Now you might have a running a person running against you here. So we got to keep you up to speed. All right. So anyways, let's take a look here. What's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower? What we're going to do, we're going to continue on here tonight. Barbara Anderson could not come on tonight. She's not doing very well. She's been under the weather, but she should be back, if all goes well, in 2 weeks with her Barbara Anderson files, so to speak, all of the different things she wants to talk about on the Watchtower. So next 2 weeks, 2 weeks from tonight, Barbara hopefully will be back with us. We're looking forward to that. And we had a program that was scheduled for 9:30, but we're just going to stay with the news. We have so many people calling in tonight. We'll just stay here. We did have a program called Bizarro World of the Watchtower, and some of the strangest beliefs they have ever had that we talk about. We're going to talk about that, but we're not going to do it tonight. We'll have it some other night. And also the urban myths and legends, that you've heard about in the Watchtower. But we're just going to stay with the news. And then at 11 o'clock, we have Aposta Babe, your favorite apostate. She'll be on at 11 o'clock. So let's stay with the news because we still have some stories we have to bring up, and it's dealing with time. The time report is out. The 2022 service report for the Jehovah's Witnesses finally made it out. Now, last week we were saying, where is it? Are they going to report time? Are they just going to kind of let it go? Maybe because it was so lousy. But anyways, the report did come out this week. So I do have it here in front of me. And I'm going to give you some of the thoughts, some of the reports, and what your thoughts are on it as well. But first of all, I have to announce that the publishers globally, the growth went up by 0.44%. Now, that is globally, worldwide, the Watchtower is claiming, and we don't know if we can even believe everything they write, but they're claiming that their organization grew worldwide by 0.4% globally. But also what we have to notice here, which is really important, and in fact, you don't see this many times. As a matter of fact, I have to tell you, being a witness for as long as I was, I don't remember ever seeing the publisher growth in the United States dropping. So I'm looking at it now, but I could have, but I don't remember it. So now we're looking at publisher growth in the United States for the year 2022 has dropped by 1%. Friends, that is monumental. You can take this one to the bank and cash it. This has more legs we can put on it than we can even think of right now. That is a real. I'm surprised the Watchtower even reported it. I know they faked numbers, they cooked the books, but I'm even thinking here that it might be worse than that. But they're only reporting 1%. Yes, go ahead, Jeff. Yeah.
They're lying.
Yeah.
It's more than that. They're flat out lying.
Yeah. All right. Well,
that's my point, sir.
All right. Well, hang in there and then comment after we get done with the story here. Be better. Okay. All right. So
yes, sir.
We're talking 1%. 1%. They're reporting publisher growth. They lost by 1%, minus 1% publisher growth. So that I like to see the minus. Geez, I love to see the minus sign next to those numbers. Now, the memorial attendance for 2022, 19,721 I'm sorry, 19,721,672 for the memorial attendance. We got another minus. On the board, 8% down from last year. Now that is strikingly interesting. 8% down from last year. So the memorial attendance down. Now, how about baptisms? Total baptisms, 145,552. 15% down. 15% down from last year. Can you imagine that? Have you ever seen the baptism rate? 15% down? And the Watchtower is actually even reporting this. But let's just hold on here for a minute. Let's not go too fast. I just want to talk about when I was a witness. And I was a witness right up to 2005, and then Satan kicked me out of his organization. But even back in 2005, the late 90s, the witnesses were bringing in 300,000 baptized every year. 280, 310, 290. And they were bringing all these large amounts of people getting in and becoming baptized. But this year, 15% down. Yes, that is significant. That is really headline news. That is something to shout about. That's why I'm doing the happy dance. We're looking at numbers coming down. And, I'm thinking, well, we know they don't tell the truth about these numbers anyways. So what I'm thinking is they had to say some down. They had to, because people know it. The witnesses know it. They see all these empty seats. They can't keep fluffing the numbers up. So they had to come in with these numbers. But I can bet you this, it's probably way more than they're saying. 15% down. Now here, get a load of this figure. Pre-pandemic, 2019. 2019, they were 52% down from 2019, 15% from just last year. So we're talking, 145,000 versus 300,000. That's cut in half, really, in the last couple of years. So that's something to really crow about. I'm very, very pleased with those numbers. But now here's the thing. I want you to listen closely, because we get some numbers here concerning total hours spent in the field. But let's not get too overly, excited. Oh, the Watchtower, Rick, is increasing in hours. Well, let me tell you what's going on. The total hours spent in the field for 2022, 1 billion, that's with a B, 1,501,000,000. 1,501,000,000. That's plus 6% from last year. So they are saying that they increased total hours in the ministry by 6% from last year. Well, I have my own feelings for that, and I'm going to give you my feelings on that and why it went up. And well, I'll give them to you right now. I'll give you my feelings right now while we're on the subject. They went up because for a good part of 2022, if you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you did not even have to really go out in the service. You could just give any number you wanted. In fact, there was no requirement for hours for a good part of 2022. So you get called up by the service over, say, "Hey, Sister Susan, how many hours you get in?" "Well, I didn't do too much. I was in the hospital." "Yeah, well, okay. Well, you must have witnessed to somebody, a nurse, a doctor, a cleaning woman, somebody." "Yeah, I did." "All right, I'll put you down for 6 hours." They fudged the numbers. They cooked the numbers is what they did. So they come up with 6. Why not 5? But 6 sounds a little more like they weren't cheating. So I'm going to say that's a cheating number. And of course it is. Of course it is. You didn't have to report any time and still get recorded as time. That's nuts. Now, here's the thing. Bible studies. Oh, we all know the Bible studies, right? Did you have a Bible study? Oh, that was one of the ways to really make you a staunch witness. And the more studies you had, oh, you were Mr. and Mrs. Elite. Okay, so Bible studies, 5,666,996, minus 4 from last year. Okay, minus 4. There's another. Look at these numbers are down. This is astonishing. We got the numbers down here for the reporting of 2022, but that's not. Let me tell you something. We talked about it just last week. Mark Sanderson, he is a Watchtower governing body member, and he came on the live streaming on the broadcast, the update broadcast for the month of January. And he was bragging about for 2023, they're off to such a good start with Bible studies. Oh, they're superseding Bible studies all over the place. So they had to see, they reported that last week before they came out with the numbers. They had to say something, because that, my friends, is a gauge. If you're driving a car and you're trying to check the instrument gauge and you're looking at the RPMs, really in explosive mode here, you better slow down a little. I'm looking at the instrument panel of our Watchtower report. It doesn't look good. We got a lot of gauges really just fine lining it here. They're coming too close to disaster. Bible studies is one of those gauges that you want to look at. Bible studies are very important. 4% down. That is really astonishing. Yeah. So, but like I say, we understand the hours are up because the publishers have a new way of counting time. Yeah, so this is all interesting. Let's just go over here. So anyways, let's take a look here. How about the emblem partakers? Now, that's something I always like to look at because I was a partaker. You guys know that. I was anointed. I used to partake in the Kingdom Hall. Now, back in 2005, when I left, that was the last memorial I went to. And, there were, at that time, there were 7,815, something like that. I don't have the figures in front of me, but it was very small, 7,000 something. And that's all there was back in 2005 for partakers at the memorial. Well, what do you think happened this year? Well, they actually got 400 more emblem partakers than they did last year. That's a 2% growth. Now, that's up there. As a matter of fact, the emblem partakers is close to, it's over 20,000. I don't have that number right in front of me, down it. I should have it. Okay. In fact, it's, boy, I don't have the number in front of me, but I know it's close to 21,000 partakers. That is absolutely nuts, isn't it? It's supposed to be going down. Jehovah's Witnesses have told us many, many times in the past that, before Armageddon could come, that number would have to keep dropping and dropping and dropping. Watchtower is wrong. It's continuing to go up, up, up. Let me just give you some stats here. I did some figuring on, how many hours it actually takes to get to get one to get baptized. Now, this is strikingly interesting. To give you an idea, the witnesses spent 1.5 billion hours preaching in 2022. And yet we see that their membership actually declined, as we've talked about. Now, when you stop and think about it, you have all this time being put in by the witnesses, going door to door and writing letters and calling people on the phone, all of these hours spent in the field, but yet at the same time, they didn't really get an increase. It really wasn't an increase at all. So just to give you some numbers here that you'll find fascinating, total hours spent in field, 1.5 billion. Let's go with that. And now if we divide that total by the number of people that were baptized, so you divide 145,552 into 1,501,000,000. What you come up with is how many people, how much time would you have to spend in the ministry to get one person baptized? Now, let's be generous about this too. And let's say that only half of the persons that got baptized were actually born-ins. So a lot of people were born in. You didn't take any effort to make them a witness. They just automatically became a witness. But to give you an idea, if we just leave the born-ins out, let's just take 1,501,000,000 was the total hours. Let's divide that by 145,552. It would take to get one person baptized 28 years. 28 years to get one person baptized. Now, that for you, that's take it 28 years to get one person baptized. You're going out and spending 10 hours a month in field service every month. Isn't that something? So this report is amazing to me. We are seeing that there's many, many people right now leaving the Watchtower. They know it. They got to keep these numbers up, because if these numbers aren't up, or at least somewhere near up, you're going to get a lot of witnesses say, what's the use of even going out in service? Why even go out? Nobody's coming in. Come on. You got to get real with this. So we're going to have to see how they're going to handle this. But also I noticed here there was 123 congregations that were closed in America. Well, that's not too bad, but 123. And I'm just thinking that when you stop and think about it all, it's not growing. In fact, the countries that you would think it would be growing the most in have negative growth, like Latin America, the Latin countries, that they have negative growth. Now, it's always been, the Spanish speaking people that were going to be coming in the thousands and millions, and Jehovah's organization was going to continue to move forward, but it's not happening. Now, in Nigeria and some of the African countries that they're getting members, but from what I get here, information coming into the 6 screens is there's many African countries where the African people, they no longer want to be Jehovah's Witnesses because of the early teachings of the Watchtower on racism. Many Black Jehovah's Witnesses in Africa are leaving because of the stance Jehovah's Witnesses have taken on racism in the past. Well, you're on with us. You're on JW World News. Anything in those reports that got your attention? Anything you want to talk about? What do you think? Boy, I'll tell you, all that work, all those hours, Bible studies, not a good report. But anyways, we want to give it here on the 6 screens, and you guys been asking for it, and I've been waiting for it, and so that's what we got. We got all these numbers, but I mean, really, I'm beginning to think it's all a bunch of baloney anyways. I don't really see if these numbers are really true or not. Well, let's see what else we got going here. Well, yes.
Yeah, it's like 1 minute they say they're growing, the next minute they're selling off Kingdom Halls. Yeah, like that last report that you read, they needed 1,500 Kingdom Halls immediately, and then they need 15,000 of them. You don't know what to believe with these guys. They're just, we've seen that Hendricks and those guys they'll just make it up as they go. Yeah, I mean, like you guys were saying, Serena coming in there, getting, baptized that quick. It's all about the money. They're doing anything they can do to, promote. I personally believe those numbers are down 50%. I cannot believe that 4% and 2%, with the people coming out of there. I just can't believe it. But we know that they'll lie flat in your face, just like the Australian Commission, and they said, oh, we don't have people sit in the back of the hall. Absolutely not. They mingle in, and we don't shun anybody who dates outside. I mean, they just lie. I mean, I thought they were so much more than that when I was a witness. Maybe they were, maybe they got hijacked, like somebody said, but they are unrecognizable today. They are unrecognizable. And I don't believe anything they say, Rick. They could say any number they want, and I would say no. And that's what's beautiful about all of us that are out. Man, we don't know exactly what's going on there, but at least we're able to kick it around, think about it, share our thoughts with each other. It's a beautiful thing that we actually can use our mind. And I wanted to say this, Rick. It was about 10 years that I came out of Watchtower before my mind would start working. My friend who worked with me, it was a lady friend. She said, Dan, you can't think. Your mind doesn't work. You can't make decisions. And Rick, it was because I never used it. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but when you're in Watchtower, you do not have to think. You just follow. You wait for the governing body to spoon feed you their spiritual food. You go door to door. You keep your hours up. They give you the spankings and the lectures, and you just follow suit. But Rick, my mind didn't work for about 10 years, where I could snap, think, and put sentences together. Isn't that something?
It is something. No, and it is something, Dan. But I like what you said at the very outset of what you just brought up, that we can't believe the numbers anyway. So I just go through the motions. But if you have an organization that'll lie through its teeth, cover up all the child sex abuse in the Watchtower, lie to people like crazy and changing their doctrines and lie about their prophecies, how would you expect them to even be truthful with these numbers? They're gonna play around with them. Yeah, they couldn't be. No.
Yeah, and you know something else, Rick? When I talk to the witnesses again, I'm going to have a different conversation with them. I used to invite them in my house, pretend I wasn't a witness. My father was a witness, and we'd have these discussions about 1975 and stuff like that. But I think my conversation, I was thinking about this the other day, and I thought my conversation is going to be different to the Jehovah's Witnesses who are still going door to door, some of the older ones. And I want to ask them, how can you continue to promote falsehood? It's absolutely proven beyond the fact, 75, I'm just talking my time. I know it goes way back. 75 generation prophecy. You guys are continuing to promote these guys. And it's like promoting a person that's a bad investment. If somebody put all their money into a fund and it went dead and they lost their money, why would you keep promoting it? That is going to be my conversation. I even thought about having a banner made up. Why are you promoting, thieves? Why are you promoting liars? Why are you promoting false prophets? You guys now, there's enough out there where you should be able to look at this thing and see. I mean, you must not care. You don't have any care at all. I know they're brainwashed, Rick, but I think I'm going to have that conversation with them. Why would you promote a bad deal? A lot of people got screwed in 75. A lot of people lost a lot of money, lost their health, put their lives on hold. And you guys continue, 2023, and you guys continue to promote falsehood. I'm going to call it for what it is. I'm not even going to talk about the governing body. You guys promote falsehood. You've been wrong again, and you don't care. Don't you care about what you're telling to people? That's going to be my conversation with some of these witnesses, because I think it's a fair question now. How can you do that with a right consciousness? Go out and tell somebody, here's the end, here's the date, here's what we're thinking now. You have no right. You've screwed up a lot of people's lives, and it's unintegral. It's not godly to promote falsehood. That's going to be my conversation, Rick. I swear it is.
Well, it's a good conversation. And I think that the witnesses have to have more conversation like that. Geez, we got to wake these guys up somehow. It's just amazing. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. Yep.
This is Eric from Providence, living in Nashville. I wanted to say to Dan, you have a YouTube video because my wife and I follow you and Angela, and I love your rant. You were telling the governing body, just say I'm sorry. Say I'm sorry. They can't do it. They can't. We're watching the governing body right now squirm like worms because they're being exposed so much they can't handle it. And instead of being like the Pope of the Catholic Church that actually did say I'm sorry, these guys are going down with the ship, and they're not going to do anything for anyone. Serena Williams is a victim in all this. I'm not mad at her, but it is frustrating for us Jehovah's Witnesses that have, like myself, I pioneered, I did everything, lost everything, and this girl can follow her dreams and have her family and everything she's ever wanted. But it's not her fault. It's the system. It's the system that this governing body has created, and that was just the point I was trying to make and go along with Dan, because I appreciate your rants, and you're a treasure to the show.
Well, thank you. Hey, Rick, I want to say something with regard to what our friend just said, but I told the governing body on 2 different videos, I said, you don't have to sell your soul for soup. You don't have to, you don't have to do this. And honestly, Rick, if governing body, and they might listen to this, but if governing body, maybe nobody would forgive them, but we're supposed to forgive. If governing body came out and did a formal apology, said, guys, we got it wrong. We shouldn't have put these predictions in there. We screwed up. There'd be a lot to say I'm sorry for. But Rick, individually, they could repent. I know it's an impossibility, but you don't. I've been where they're at. I have been in the corporation where I didn't care about other people, and I stomped other people, and I climbed the ladder, because I wanted to go higher. I like the status. So there's more to life than lying to people, than hurting people, hurting the masses. I mean, yeah, you get a joy out of moving 5 million people this way and that way. But at the end of the day, in your consciousness, Rick, there's a saying in masonry, and it says you can't escape the all-seeing eye within yourself. It calls you a liar. It calls you just what you are. You cannot escape your soul. Your soul speaks to you. And so I speak to him like that. I point at him on my video. I said, come on. And sometimes I just call it like it is. But like I said, I'm a little animated, but I really mean it. You can turn around. You really can. Anybody can, Rick. It says we can turn around. That's all Jesus said. Turn around. Stop sinning. So anyway.
Well, I like what you're saying. That's kind of jogging my memory loose. In 2013, Dick Borgie and myself, we went down to Watchtower, and I knew Brother Loesch, and I met with him before in the year 2000, and I had an interview, as you all know, for the governing body, a potential position on the governing body. But so be that. But I wanted to go back in 2013. Dick and I went down to New York to 25 Columbia Heights. That's still when they were there in Brooklyn. And I wanted to talk to Loesch or any governing body member and tell them just exactly what you said. They could repent. They could turn around. And I was going to tell them at that time, if I didn't get an interview with them and talk with them, that they got to stop this hiding pedophilia. It's costing them too much money. Come clean and save millions. So Dick and I went down and we waited for it to open. They opened the doors at 1:00. So they said we could come in then. But Dick and I walked in, and as soon as I walked through the door, I was approached by 3 Watchtower security guards, and then they were dressed in beautiful blue blazers, and they had the JW, symbol on their coats, and they said that I wasn't in there, Dan. I wasn't 10 feet into the lobby when they stopped me, and they got me on facial recognition. And they came to me and they said, "Are you Rick Farron?" I said, "Yes." And they said, "Well, what are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I came to speak with Brother Loesch. I have a very important message I want to share with him." And I was going to tell him just what you were saying, Well, he doesn't want to talk to you. I said, "Well, how do you know that?" "I just know he won't talk to you." And he says, I said, "Well, give him a call. Call him up right now." And so he called him and he says, "No, he doesn't want to talk." I says, "Well, get a hold of anybody else here. Anybody else here, I'll talk to them." "No, nobody wants to talk to you, Rick." So, they didn't want to talk. So I got it. So anyways, I stayed in the lobby and he said, "You're going to stay here?" I says, "Yeah, I'm going to take a look around when we're here." They were very nervous, Dan, very nervous. I mean, they knew I was an apostate. Yeah. So they were very, very nervous. "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "Well, we're going to walk around. I'd like to, with my friend, he would like to take a look at the museum and check a few things out." And they were watching us like hawks. They didn't know what to do. It was unreal.
Free to pull out the sign.
Oh yeah. But we were very civil. We didn't get into a big battle or anything. So it worked out okay. But I would have loved to speak with, I could have saved them millions, Dan. If they would have listened to me, they'd be $100 million richer, Yes.
Yeah, and I would ask this too. Yeah, they would have, Rick.
Yeah.
And I love you for that, for wanting to go in and do that. Because think about this. If Stephen Lett was to come on your show and he had a tear in his eye and he had a pause in his voice and he said, "I'm sorry, my brothers, I love you." And, and he had some tears, who on this show would not run to him? We all would. And the reason we would is because we all run to each other. We were all Stephen Lett. I mean, not to the degree right now where he's knowing, there's a knowingness about his thing, but we were all him at one level. There's different levels in there. But who wouldn't embrace him, Rick? Don't you think you'd embrace him?
Of course, Dan, we would. We really, really, all of us would, yes.
Yep.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hey, Rick, Dan, I understand what you're saying, Dan. This is Gilbert, but you have to understand that all of these questions have already been answered. The same thing happened when the apostles of Jesus says, "Why can't we drive this demon out of this man?" Because the sins that this man had created were so great that you needed prayer and fasting. So you would literally need thousands of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses to go into prayer and fasting. The governing body member himself would have to go into prayer and fasting in order to get rid of this demon. But check this out. When Jesus had to intervene, that guy says, "Hey, Jesus, I want to be part and follow you." And Jesus says, "No, you're going home." So this is the point. Rick, have you noticed how the governing body members are not apostates like you and me? Have you noticed how district overseers and zone overseers and circuit overseers are not apostates like you and me and Dan? Because Jesus has saw it fit that ordinary fishermen, carpenters, ordinary street sweepers, like Martin Luther King said, Jesus wants them to lead the charge of the fight. And this is what you're learning, that nothing has changed from 2,000 years and today. It's going to take a lot of fasting. And I've been looking at JW.org videos, and it doesn't look like anybody's fasting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, go ahead.
8, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah. What Dan said earlier. Yeah. I mean, if they come out and confess, say, "Hey, we lied," or we were misinformed, what have you, and we're sorry, that would do a lot. That would do a lot for ex-witnesses, and it would do a lot for chemos and anybody with doubts. So that's my comment. Thanks.
All right, well, fine.
Yeah. I want to say one last thing too, Rick. I know this sounds crazy, but our words, what we're saying about Watchtower, is really saying repent. And I know, like this guy said, it's almost impossible. But I believe our talking today is to prick their conscience. The voice is getting louder. It's not going down. It's like trumpet blasts. It's like we're marching around the Watchtower, blowing trumpets, and those infrastructures are crumbling. So I think our words coming from our heart are a prayer. Even though they're negative, even though they're negative, but they're truthful, we're saying these guys are guilty, these guys are this. I think it's a constant thing. It's a constant knocking at the door, saying, "My God, they're not going to stop." And like Jeff just said, an apology. Forgive us. We made a mistake. We're Bible students. Whatever. But it would go a long way. It might even stop a lot of it. But I think what we're doing is a prayer. I think everybody who comes on here and shows that they got out is a miracle. And for us to have a voice is another miracle. And then for us to speak to falsehood is another miracle. Did you want to say something, Angela? Yeah, Angela wants to say something. So I just want to finish and just say, our talking right now to Watchtower is a prayer. We're talking to all the people listening on the phone, saying, "We love you. Come out, find your real life. This is not your real life." And we're hopeful and we're anxious. I cry for my brother every day, and I pray he comes out. I don't really need him in my life. I built a life without him, but I cry for him because I know he's under mind control. I know he's being tossed about by so many things and lies, and I cry for him, but I cry for everybody in there. I really do. I want to see them have a life that I've experienced after being out 22 years. And Angela wants to say something.
Well, you guys, the thing is, what touches me is that God's looking at our hearts all the time, in my way of looking at it, and our wills. So let's just say that Tony Morris and Stephen Lett were starting to tug at their hearts, and they really realized that, oh my gosh, somehow, some way, they have a moment of realization, and they realize, I'm doing wrong. I know it. And I don't know what to do. My pride is so big, and I just can't do it. People are depending on me, and they just can't do it. But their wills are. When I wish to do right, this bad is present with me. This evil is present with me, and I can't seem to stop myself. But then on his deathbed, he says, "Oh God, help me! I'm so sorry, Lord, please." And somebody hears him say that, and just think of the joy that God would feel. I would have a joy just knowing that they felt that way. You know, they couldn't make the change, but they willed to do it in their heart, but they just couldn't pull it off. You know what I mean? It's like everybody who's ever left the Jehovah's Witnesses. Wow, that's huge, because you had to admit that you had been wrong. You humbled yourself. You laid yourself down and you said truth is more important, truth at all costs. And that is a beautiful and amazing miracle all in itself. I really do think it's possible that their wills could say, I have made a mistake. Oh, God, help me. And God would be very, very pleased. And that is my hope for them, if at least on their deathbed. So anyway, let's all pray for that, because we don't want, if we couldn't have made this change, then we would have hoped for God's mercy on our deathbeds. But here we are. At least we've made a step in the right direction before we're even close to that, for many of us at least. And we should be rejoicing. But it's not easy for everyone. I've got sisters who will not admit that they've been wronged, that they've been led down a wrong path. People that have been, my family has been in cults for so many years, that if they give up now, it's like admitting defeat when they've given everything they've got to make what they believe in true. And when they come to realize that maybe it isn't true, they just can't accept that. I just can't even entertain the thought of that. But you guys, we have been able to make the change. This is a big deal. And we can hope at least that our family members are going to figure it out like we did. It could have happened. Danny even has a brother who's trying to get a hold of them, and maybe, just maybe, and of course we can hope, right? It might be true. He might be really coming out. So anyway, we always can hope. That's all I wanted to say.
Wow, that's a good comment, Angela. Thank you very much for bringing that up. And I like the idea, what you're saying. I don't discount it at all. I mean, there has been a governing body member that did get out, Ray Franz. So it's not out of the question, and how good it would be. But, I just wanted to go back there. Someone did bring up the fact that, they don't ever want to apologize. They create all these issues in people's lives, but to have the governing body apologize, that would be unusual. As a matter of fact, I got information from someone who was in Australia, still in Australia, and they were part of the inquiry. They actually reported at the ARC, the Australia Royal Commission court system they had over there, and then were they interviewing witnesses that were sexually abused. And this one person did give me information here, and how she was abused by the Watchtower, and she went before the Australia Royal Commission. And anyways, she did finally get money from the Watchtower. She told me that she did get her amount of money. She didn't say how much, but I believe it was around $100,000, $115,000. So they did pay her that. They paid her that last spring. So they did start dishing the money out and giving it to the people that were hurt in Australia because of sex abuse cover-ups. So that's what they call the redress scheme, or the redress arrangement, that these witnesses who were victims did get paid by the Watchtower, as well as other people abused in other organizations got paid by the organization they were abused in. Okay, so we got that. But also part of the redress, a part of the arrangement, is not only money that these victims had to get. And she said she got the money, which is fine. She enjoys it, and she can now kind of get on with her life. But she also wants an apology. And in that redress arrangement in Australia, that was part of the arrangement. You pay the people money, and you personally give them an apology, which she's still waiting for the apology. She hasn't got the apology yet. And they were to have that apology given to her by the first of the year. So she got a hold of the Watchtower in Australia and called them and said, look, I'm still waiting for my apology. So they gave her the runaround, and whether she'll ever get the apology or not, I don't know. But at least she did get the money, but she's looking for the apology. But you know something? Narcissist, people in this category, they never apologize. So I just wanted to bring that up tonight. And who's ever making all this phone noise, boy, if you could just, Jeff, I know it's you. You got to keep, Jeff, you got to keep your phone unmuted. Your phone gives an awful lot of noise off. So could you do that for me, Jeff? Really, please. Just do that for me. Keep your phone muted when you're not talking on it. It's coming from your phone. It's better now. So you're nice and clear. The line is now. And how help the people? How help me, Jeff? How help me, please? So anyway, she never got the apology. Never got the apology. So I wanted to bring that up tonight. Also, another thing that came across, I just want to give Linda James a heads up. Aposta Babe, I want to give her a heads up. She's going to be coming on tonight at 11 o'clock, Linda. 11 o'clock, you'll be coming on, Linda, for your program, Healing After the Watchtower. So you'll be up in about 20 minutes. So I sent you the link already. So if you could be ready, that would be good. Linda James, 15, 20 minutes from now, you'll be on. So go ahead and get ready for that. Okay, someone want to speak up? We get some people coming through here. Go ahead. Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
I just wanted to make one more point about what you just said about the lady who just got paid the money and she wants an apology. You know, sometimes when people get an apology, they don't want the money.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like if somebody does something to you and they say, man, I'm sorry, you know, I'm really sorry about, hey, don't worry about it, man. I'll take care of it. It's like if Watchtower had wisdom, I believe that probably 80% of the apostates would go away with a large apology. I mean, what else can you do to a man that says he's sorry and means it? You know, it's the highest form of repentance. It's like, you know, you can't really attack them anymore. Why would you want to keep attacking them? You know, and so anyway, I just think, man, wisdom is like an apology a lot of times is cheaper than you know the prices people pay. People say I'm sorry when they kill somebody, and the person who they killed, the family, say I forgive him. He said he was sorry. But when you got people that are like Watchtower that are just like you said, Rick, narcissists, you know, they don't apologize. They're God.
Yeah.
They're playing God. Watchtower is playing God.
Well, that Dan.
That was the point I brought up earlier because last week everyone deconstructed the suicide issue, and this week people discussed the blood issue. But the toppest, I don't think that's a word, but it is now. They have dispensed salvation. And when you look at the occult traits, the Watchtower is the foremost group that thinks they can dispense your salvation. And we know in Christianity that would be Christ, and that we're all humans in a big universe. They think they're above the universe. They think they can tell you what your afterlife could or could not be. So they will never say sorry.
Well, Pixie, you know, you're bringing up a good thought, and I'm agreeing with you. And you know, the Australia Royal Commission, that they investigated a number of institutions. Jehovah's Witness was just one of them, and there was over 1,000 people, children, that were abused in the Watchtower and covered up. So the Watchtower was on the hook to pay these victims off, but part of the deal, they were required to give a direct personal response, apology, accompanied with the money. They got the money, but no apology. Now,
there are people that would take the apology over the money, but with the narcissist, that will never happen.
Yeah.
And it's sad. And the thing is that even people that have left 10, 20 years later, they're still struggling with this, oh, they dispense my salvation. And I think that keys into why they would say no to a medical procedure, why suicide is such an issue. They have given over their power of the afterlife and life and death to that council of popes up there. And they really haven't thought it through. Even if they've gone 20 years and they're free for 20 years, they're still thinking, oh, well, this is how it is. They have, New York has my afterlife. No, they don't. That's the hardest thing. We've been so convinced that they have written this script.
Well, Kurt, you're on with us. Go ahead. Let's go with Kurt first down there in, what's it, West Virginia, Kurt? You're from, yeah?
Yeah. I know the program's about over, I don't know if you've got a few minutes to talk about selling Kingdom Halls or not. You want to discuss that for just a minute?
Yeah, because it's going to tie in with the last story I got here. So go ahead. You talk about that because I got some information I want to share with the audience as well. So go ahead.
Okay. I was born in 56. Along about 68, our Kingdom Hall was a rented small place. Some of us stood up during the meetings. Not far from us was another Kingdom Hall, and they had their own building. My grandfather and my dad helped build that with the rest of them. Grandpa was in the logging business. They had to cut some big trees. They built that Kingdom Hall. That Kingdom Hall was sold about 1968 to a Church of God. The Church of God met, I think, the next Sunday after they bought it. Our little Kingdom Hall that was rented was overflowing, so in 1970, we built a Kingdom Hall. I remember Dad and I literally dug the footer for the footer, the ditch for the footer. Dad was working in the mines. He was good with a pick and shovel. And then the congregation joined in, and the local congregation joined in. It wasn't a quick build, but all of us together built a nice Kingdom Hall. About 6 years ago, it was sold by the Watchtower. And my son was up there this past week, and the Kingdom Hall sign is still up. It was sold to a local guy that divided it up inside in 3 places for these four-wheelers that come in all over America to ride these mountains. And the parking lot was full of four-wheelers. There was a big hole knocked in the wall. The Kingdom Hall sign was still up on the end of the building. The JW.org sign was still up at the door. And these people had to start going to the next Kingdom Hall. And the next Kingdom Hall, some of them had a 60-mile drive. Some of them had a 15-mile drive. The moral to the story is that the Kingdom Hall owns the property, and they sold the property for money. It really hurts my feelings, but of course I march right on. But I thought I'd just give that as an example of selling Kingdom Halls. I think it's unnecessary in most cases, but that's my story. I thought I'd tell you that. Thank you, Rick.
Well, thank you, Kurt. No, that ties in with what we're going to talk about here next for a few minutes because they're in the real estate business. The publishing business, there's no money in that anymore. By the time they buy the paper and get the people to print it and the ink, and what are you going to do with all these solvent ink and waste and hazardous waste and all of that? They don't like printing anymore. Eventually, they're not even going to print. They're going to have you print it all yourself online. But the point I want to make is the Watchtower. I just came across this article this week. It was in the Long Island, New York Business News. And what it says here, after a previous sale fell through, Geico. Now, we all know Geico. That's the insurance company with the little lizard, right? Geico Insurance has sold its sprawling Woodbury property for $27 million. So the Geico Insurance Company sold a building to guess who just this week for $27 million. None other than the Watchtower organization. Now, the buyer for the 236,335 square foot office building. Friends, that's a big building. It's on 20 acres of land at 750 Woodbury Road. Well, the people who bought it, they're known as the Christian Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. That's right. Now, it's unclear, according to the newspaper article, what the religious organization Jehovah's Witnesses has planned for the property. And church officials could not be reached for comment. Well, they weren't going to tell you anyways. But anyways, it goes on to say that They couldn't sell the land. They couldn't sell the building previously because of some zoning problems. Geico could have got $48 million for it, but they couldn't because of a zoning problem. But the witnesses came in, bought it for $27 million. What are they going to do with the property? It's not going to be an assembly hall. What they're buying real estate. Just like Kurt said, they're flipping kingdom halls all over the
I
place.
wondered if they were going to clean it up and resell it because it's a beautiful building, or if they're going to move their accountants from New York into it.
I'm not sure, but I'm putting a picture up. But it's a beautiful building. There it is on Facebook, and there it is on YouTube. It's a beautiful building, 236,365 square feet. That's a good sized building. I mean, the building there, Ramapo offices to build their movie, to do their video filming. They got the Warwick. They just built that. What are they going to do with this building? I don't know if they need it. I mean, I'm not speaking for them.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
For attorneys, accountants. But, you know, it would be funny if they had Serena as a mascot.
Well, there's so many things. I mean, we all try to figure out, because the Watchtower is so secretive. Why don't they tell the world or tell the Geico insurance people why they bought the building? Are they going to flip it? Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
The greedy cult, the greedy organization, or anyway, a greedy corporation disguised as a nasty cult. That's all I got to say.
Well, you got to say enough. That's a mouthful. That's a mouthful. But it is. It's just absolutely nuts what's going on. It's a real estate business. There's no money in making books anymore and publishing books. There's none.
Yes, sir.
So now what they're doing is they're flipping kingdom halls, and they're really getting gutsy here. I mean, if I was a Jehovah's Witness, I would like to know, but they would never answer you. But I think if you were a card-carrying, contributing Jehovah's Witness and being part of their brotherhood, I would think that if you asked a question, what is that building for, Watchtower? Well, what are we going to do there? Why do we spend that money? No, you can't question them.
Question, Rick. You know, when Jesus was in the desert and old Satan, the devil, offered him some real estate, he said he didn't need it.
Jesus didn't even have a house to live in.
That's it.
He didn't have a bed to sleep in.
His kingdom was not part of this world when he was offered all the real estate, all built up and everything.
Yeah. Well, you know, I wish.
So if Jesus would do.
Well, I wish Watchtower would take the example of Jesus. I wish they'd take the example of just their humble witnesses. Jeez, I mean, just take the example of a good, honest, living Jehovah's Witness family that doesn't know any better. Geez, they go to the meeting, they put their hard-earned money in the box, they put the kids in the car, they study their Watchtower, and they're being taken advantage. They should know why they bought that building for $27 million.
Or somebody that came before them, like Ray Franz.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, it took me years to deconstruct all this. Like you say, you know, they're using real estate as their motivation now, and it's so far from what it was.
It is far from what it was. It's a different organization. As I say, it's not your grandfather's business anymore. It's entirely different. Pixie, when you were in, when I was in, people listening to this program, we had to have some knowledge of the Bible. We had to have a little bit of knowledge of it, at least. Today, you don't. The witnesses today, you approach a witness today, even when they come to your door, they're just trying to get you on JW.org. They're not going to get into a biblical discussion. And any questions raised, go to JW.org. They'll give you the answer. They're not being trained.
The elder called me. He wanted to know if I was coming to Memorial in the spring, and he said it was really nice that I took care of my mom, and that's why she lived a longer time. And I said, well, that was one factor, you know. And I said, I was just doing number 6. And he said, what? He did not know the 10 Commandments.
Yeah, I know that's right. The new witnesses, they're not trained. You know, we at least could make a defense. we were like apologists. All of us were apologists for the Watchtower. If we went door to door and why don't you people salute the flag? Well, why do you refuse blood transfusions? You know, we had some scriptures we could share with them, but the witnesses today will go on jw.org. You can find out there. It's a
Every
different,
working
yeah.
class kid in my old neighborhood, you know, knew the 10 Commandments.
Yeah. Well,
Hey, Rick.
yes.
You don't dare talk about Revelation or anything like that with newer people. We've invited people in before, and I would say something like, do you remember when the League of Nations turned into United Nations, and that was a disgusting thing, standing in a holy place because only Jehovah could bring about peace, and this was a fake structure that was put in place by man, and it would never succeed. And now they were associated with that. They would look at me like I'm a deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? Beast and coming out of the sea, you know? It's like they go to jw.org, and it kills me that they have these tablets. Somebody comes to the door and you go, "How you doing?" And they're going, "Hi, can I show you a video?" Like, where's your Bible? You know, where's your you know, your current event, you know, that you're going to talk about to lure me in? And you know, it's hilarious now. It's like, it's ridiculous.
Well, it's just become humorous. It's actually very funny. It makes me laugh at some of the things I hear coming out of the witness world, Dan. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
It is. But I watch it for entertainment, honestly. I really do. I watch some of this stuff and I go, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
And I laugh, and I'm not laughing at them. I'm just like, God almighty. It's something to see. It's entertainment now. I'm sorry to say, a lot of it's entertainment.
Yeah.
Does the Geico building have a tennis court that we don't know about?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if there's a tennis court there or not. They're going to have a tennis court up in Ramapo, though. Tennis court, gymnasium, a car wash. They're going to have it all up there. But I'm sure they got something in mind for this building in Long Island. We'll have to see what they're going to do with that. Yeah.
Hey, Rick?
Let's go with Dick, and then we'll go with Carrie. Go ahead, Dick.
Rick, is Serena Williams, is that the sister that posed nude on Sports Illustrated?
Yeah.
Is that Serena?
With the flags, yeah.
Well,
That's
it's just so the audience knows, because I'm not, going to pound her into the dirt. But she did have herself photographed nude, but she had her knees up in front of her breast, so you couldn't see them. But you could actually see her being nude.
Yeah.
And if she's really going to be a good JW, well, you alluded to the fact that she had 10.6 million people listening to her on Twitter. Then you know what? If she starts witnessing, then I'll believe she's made a turn for the JWs.
Yeah.
Just a couple other things. Dan Clark is not a racist. He's a brilliant author. And the word ghetto first was used when the Germans in the 40s or even the late 30s started putting the Jews in they weren't concentration camps, but they compressed them in one small area of town. So that's when the word ghetto was first used, and the German people are white mostly, and the Jews are white. So it didn't always pertain to black people. And I just wanted to apprise everybody, because I mentioned it about a month ago. I had an elder and his sister come knocking on the door. I was thrilled. Come on, sit down. I get your coffee. And then I allude to the fact that I had read the Truth book and the Paradise Earth book. He was kind of pleasant for a few minutes. Well, got to go meet the group. I said, "Well, you welcome back." "Oh yeah, we haven't seen him." I guess he gets scared when I grabbed my Bible, which was right next to me on the couch. He just was not coming back. But Dan makes a good point about if the governing body, we know they're hearing us, because we know Johnny the Bethelite, his job was to monitor what we were saying on 6th Street and tell the governing body. So the governing body knows that there are a lot of people out there that know that they're a fraud. And
Their time is coming. Their time is coming. They're going to be exposed. And Ray France did a good job. You're doing a good job. And everyone that calls in, and let's people know that this is a fraud. Six Greens is shining a lot of light into a very, very dark cult. Thank you, Rick, and thank you for what you do for everybody.
Well, you're very welcome,
again.
Dick, and thank you for chiming in tonight, you and Constance.
Can I speak up, please? Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Zachary. Yep.
Hi. Yes. I want to make a clarification. I was asleep when the Serena Williams story came up, and I had to go back and listen to what I had missed, and that's when I realized I missed Serena Williams. I did hear that discussion about ghetto, and I heard it sounded like it was misunderstood, that as if Shirley called someone a racist. I didn't hear Shirley call anyone a racist. Shirley asked about the word ghetto being used regarding Serena Williams. That's all what Shirley did. She asked about the word ghetto and it being used for Serena Williams. What Dan did, Dan said, oh yeah, it was a poor choice of words. And basically, end of story there. But others who came in and were arguing started bringing the word racist up. I think that Shirley made a strong point when she said, if this were a white tennis star doing the same thing that Serena was doing, the word ghetto would have never come up. That's all. But she, just to make it clear, because I consider Shirley a friend, she did not call Dan a racist. Everybody came in on it, and the word gets thrown around. That's what happened.
Well, I mean, Shirley's my friend too, Zach. So no, Zach.
No.
Yeah, my friend. Shirley's my friend. But she did bring up the thought that she did mention that why would you use that word? Why would she ask that?
Yes.
Why would she ask that?
And that's a good point. That's a good point. But we have so much in our subconscious, and these kinds of things come out. And when they're pointed out, you know something, admit it. And I like the way Dan talks, because I remember the summer of 2020, Dan came in, Rick, and Dan reminded you, he said, well, these kinds of things do happen in the history, and sometimes all you want is just an acknowledgement. When you're bringing it up, just an acknowledgement. That's what Dan Clark said. I will never forget that happened. That was in 2020. So when I heard him say, oh, it's just, you know, it was a poor choice of words, I wasn't surprised, because that apparently is who he is. He'll admit it. And he'll say, that's not a good choice of words. I don't think Shirley was calling him a racist, and I don't think of him that way either. So don't throw it around. You know what I mean?
No, I get you, Zach. No, in fact, I want to make it very plain too that, you know, I don't see, none of us are racist on here, black, white, or whatever color we are. I mean, we're all trying to do the best we can. From time to time, there are people that come on and deliberately spew it. We've had that happen before, but for the most part, geez, we're all in the same boat here together. I mean, we've got black people that have programs on here. We've got different people of different groups that come on here. We don't, we're not racist in any way. Now, once in a while, callers come in. We can't help it, but I do stand in Dan's defense tonight. I don't see that he would have said it to do any harm. I don't see it that way. Yeah.
I do as well.
Yeah.
Dan is not a racist.
Yeah.
I just want to say,
Jeff,
did you hear me?
Jeff, yeah, I hear you, and that's why I'm responding. No one called Dan a racist.
For that, Zach. I want to say I appreciate the lady, only because tensions are so high, and you got to be careful with slang. I grew up in Detroit. We all talk shit like that, you know. That's effing ghetto, you know. We just talk that way. But when I said it tonight, it was like a check. Like, hey, be careful. There's other people listening on here. There's sensitive people, and I don't want to nobody. My best man was black. Tony Jefferson was my best man. He was black. A black guy helped me read. Eugene Michael. He taught me to read. I mean, I have best friends that are black, and they've got black kids that have mixed races. And I'll tell you one more thing. I defended the blacks in Nacogdoches. That was the most prejudiced hall I ever worked in. They said, we don't go out door to door with blacks. I did. You don't ride your motorcycle with blacks. I did. We don't use blacks in the hall. Yet why don't you? And I stood behind him and I went door to door. Even when a brother told me, you go out with me and you don't ever go out with a black door, you'll get hung here. And I did. I had black people over. I had a white and a black guy over my house. When they came to my door, my boss came to my door and said, Danny, we don't do that here in East Texas. We don't have black people in the damn house. We don't go with no nigger. That's how they talk. And I go, fuck you. You know, I was like, hey, I mean, it was bad. East Texas, Nacogdoches, Texas, man. It's the last congregation to segregate.
Well, to be specific, the reason why I did speak up, because I was asleep through the whole thing. I would have probably spoken up a little bit too. Shirley would have been in front. I would have come behind her maybe. But I spoke up just now because Dick Borgie came in and said that because of what he said, and I would feel bad if Shirley were, you know, if words were put in her mouth, because she really did bring that up. And we have it in our history as a country. Let's face it, we've got an ugly history, and it's a lot of washing and scrubbing we need to do to get it.
Sure, she needed to bring it up.
Hey, Jeff, Jeff, just stay out of it, Jeff.
You're talking right.
And I have a question. I want to ask this. Rick, you said Serena Williams, I guess she'll be on the governing body. You said, you there?
I did, yeah. I did, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So does that mean that Serena or now that GG for GB has an opponent that they both have to campaign to be on the governing body against each other?
Yeah, we kind of brought that up too. Yeah, we kind of brought that up too. That's funny. Well, Zach, thank you for coming in. We love Shirley. We love you.
Hey,
yeah.
I had Serena introduce every JW.org video. They could really get some members.
You're right. Yeah. You're right. Well, listen, I guess that's going to end the program, folks. We got a pasta babe. She's in the batting deck here, ready to come up. But I just wanted to make a couple of comments here. We do 6 Screen Sunday tomorrow. We don't talk about spiritual issues here on Saturday night for the most part. But on Sunday, we get into what did Jehovah's Witnesses do for spirituality when they leave the Watchtower. So tomorrow, starting at 12 o'clock, we've got a cult expert coming in. He's got a guest coming on as well. He's going to be talking about a religious cult. All right, we're gonna block. Jeff, mute your phone, okay? I'm muting you, Jeff, okay? Keep your phone muted, Jeff. I'm not going to ask you again. I'm going to help me out.
I didn't do nothing.
I'm okay. I'm muting it for you because what's happening is it echoes and we can hear me coming through. So don't, keep it muted. Keep it muted. There's no reason to come in now because the program's over. So let's, all right. So anyways, tomorrow, Sunday, we do have our 6 Screen Sunday beginning at 12 o'clock tomorrow. We have a program all about cults. And we got a man coming in from Illinois. His name is Chad. He does the program. And then at 1 o'clock, we have the Knowing God program. That'll be coming on at 1. 2 o'clock, we have Anne Marie coming back on with her. Well, this is a great program. She got two guests coming on, husband and wife. And they were just married today. They were just married, yesterday. And they're going to be coming on tomorrow talking about what they're doing for spirituality since they left the Watchtower. And then at 4 o'clock 3 o'clock, we're going to do JW. No, we're not going to do JW World News tomorrow. We have the truth shall set you free. We have a person coming on that's going to tell you all of the wrong teachings in the Watchtower. Look forward to that program tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And then 4, Jay Hess will be on. So looking forward to it all. Now, I just want to make one other comment here as well. I know a lot on here, but I want to tell you sincerely, don't send money. I know people love the 6 Screens and they send money here, but please don't send money here to the 6 Screens. As a matter of fact, the reason why I say that is when I got out of the organization, I did not have to pay a penny to anybody. People were so willing to help me and help me work through it. And I would have been insulted if I had to pay someone to learn all of this. So I don't want you to send money here. If you have a few extra bucks, give it to someone that can really use it. Even give it to a Jehovah's Witness. Give it to a poor witness. If you need a few bucks, go ahead and do that. But what you could do for me is why don't you do this in lieu of sending money? Why don't you just like us on Facebook? Or why don't you just share it on Facebook? Do that for me. That would work. You could also become a subscriber on YouTube. So that would help me more than $1,000. I'm telling you the truth. I'd rather have you do that. So do that for me, please, if you would. Now, the other thing is I want to make an announcement concerning the video suite. So if you're listening in on the suite, in the around the end of February, we're changing this platform. We're no longer going to have the 6 screens video suite as we know it. We have another platform that I've been working with, and this platform is going to be better. You'll be able to talk through your computer screen. If you want to say something, you don't have to dial up on a telephone number. People from all over the world can talk right through their computer. If they have a microphone, they can talk through their computer. It'll be nice and clear. It's all right through the internet. It's not like how we're doing it now. So just to give everyone a heads up, the 6 screens video suite is going to be changed. It's going to have a new look. It's going to have a new feel. It's going to be better. And then all of you people on the suite too will be able to see everything we do here. Right now, you're limited, and it takes a lot of work to get all these videos up for you to see, but you'll be able to see everything better. You'll be able to hear better. There'll be no problems with sound. So that's coming up the end of February, no longer the 6 screens video suite. Well, we want to thank everyone for coming in tonight, and we really appreciate those that have spoken up. We had a lot of people speak up tonight, and thank you for doing that. That makes a big difference. Now we're going to Apostle Babe, hailing after the Watchtower. She burns the midnight oil here at the 6 screens, and she is on deck. Let me just take a look in here. I believe she's getting ready. She's putting her makeup on, and she's getting all set to roll. So we're going to be coming on with your favorite apostate, Apostle Babe. She's coming on next right here on the 6 screens Tele Network. Friends, thank you very much for coming in, and I want you guys to keep standing tall. Don't you ever give in, up, or out. And the last one, leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. Apostle Babe's next. We'll see you there. Thank you.